And good morning and welcome to today's hybrid New York City Council hearing for the committees on Consumer and Worker Protection and Economic Development. To minimize disruption on Zoom, please place all electronic devices to vibrate or silent mode. If you'd like to submit testimony, please send via email to testimony@council.nyc.gov. Once again, that is testimony@council.nyc.gov. Thank you for your cooperation. Chairs, we are ready to begin.
Good morning and welcome to this joint hybrid hearing of the Economic Development and Consumer and Worker Protection Committees of the New York City Council. Today is Tuesday, June 28th, 2022. My name is Amanda Farias and I have the privilege of chairing this hearing alongside my colleague, Councilmember Marjorie Velasquez, Chair of the Committee on Consumer and Worker Protection. I'd like to thank my co-chair and the members of our committees for coming together for this hearing. We are joined today by Council Members Osei, Bottcher, Aviles, Salamanca, Krishnan, and Williams. The purpose of this hearing today is to discuss two bills relating to New York's fledgling adult-use cannabis industry and to have a public discussion about how the administration is preparing for adult-use cannabis shops, what they are doing to ensure licenses go to the most harmed by cannabis prohibition, and how the council can assist in those efforts towards making sure this new industry develops as equitably as possible. The first bill, Introduction 285, co-sponsored by Councilmembers Riley, Williams, Stevens, myself, and Councilmember Nurse, would create a new Office of Cannabis Business Services within the Department of Small Business Services. This office would be responsible for establishing goals and promoting equitable ownership of cannabis businesses in the city. The office would achieve these goals through monitoring implementation of statewide cannabis regulations, establishing citywide goals for cannabis ownership from communities disproportionately impacted by prohibition, assisting applicants from those communities in applying for retail cannabis licenses, and offering incentive programs to encourage residents of those communities to apply. These programs would include legal and technical advice, subsidized loans, assistance in finding appropriate retail space, and any other incentives not expressly prohibited by the state's cannabis law. This office could lay the foundation for developing retail dispensaries across New York City that are owned and operated by and for New Yorkers, instead of the large-scale cannabis operators who have obtained most of the licenses in other states without robust cannabis equity programs. This office would assist New Yorkers in building upon lessons learned in other states where equity applicants lost their opportunities to compete due to the Byzantine regulations that ultimately delayed their entrance into the market. Prioritizing a proactive approach to governance has always been important to me, especially when government directly impacts Black and Brown New Yorkers in both equity, regulations, opportunity, and safety. The second bill we are hearing today is Introduction 504, co-sponsored by Councilmember Rivera. This bill would build upon Introduction 285 in requiring the new Office of Cannabis Business Services to create and maintain a directory of active cannabis establishments in the city and critically identifying which establishments are operated by equity applicants. This would provide New Yorkers with insight into which cannabis establishments are run by people from their communities and enable them to make informed decisions about how and where they purchase adult-use marijuana. Furthermore, it would prevent the illicit sale of cannabis in our neighborhoods that has not only not been lab tested, but also not paying the taxes needed to maintain equity programs. This is critical in maintaining the safety of our neighborhoods while also creating the space for those in the legacy community who are most impacted of over-policing of cannabis. At today's hearing, we look forward to hearing from the Department of Small Business Services and the Economic Development Corporation on how the administration is preparing for the adult-use cannabis industry, what mechanisms are in place to assist equity applicants, and what the council can do to ensure that New York's cannabis industry successfully bridges the gap between business and community. Before we begin, I would like to also thank the Economic Development Committee staff, Committee Counsel Alex Polinoff, Senior Policy Analyst William Hongach, and Finance Unit Head Alia Ali for their work on this hearing. Finally, before we hear from the administration, I'd like to turn to my co-chair Marjorie Velasquez to say a few words.
Good morning. I am Councilmember Marjorie Velasquez, Chair of the Committee on Consumer and Worker Protection. And I'd like to welcome you to our joint hearing today with the Committee on Economic Development, chaired by my colleague and Bronxite, Councilmember Farias. Our oversight and legislative hearing today is on adult use cannabis and the regulatory and licensing environment that is being developed for this new industry. For decades, the criminalization of marijuana and the war on drugs led to a war against communities of color. An ACLU report from 2013 found that African Americans were over 3.5 times more likely than white Americans to be apprehended for marijuana-related violations, despite identical usage rates. The consequences of criminalization of marijuana and the immense harm it has caused for families in the city is truly unfathomable. Finally, in March of 2021, New York State legalized cannabis and created a regulatory framework for the new industry. Given the disproportionate impact of the war on drugs on communities of color, the New York State Legislature has emphasized that the new industry should benefit those communities. To ensure previously illegal legacy cannabis businesses can enter the legal marketplace, New York State must minimize the red tape and licensing requirements needed to qualify for a retail license. It has been unfortunate to see so far that the initial rules proposed for social and economic equity applications have expansive requirements. The rules include, for example, that the applicant list any charitable contributions they've made for the last 5 years, and details of any state or federal administrative or judicial proceedings the applicant took part in. These regulations make it difficult and dissuade legacy cannabis businesses from applying for a retail license, and therefore undermine the state's goals of ensuring the economic benefits of this industry directly benefit the communities impacted by the war on drugs. It is important to note that many non-equity applicants that enter the cannabis industry will have a competitive edge in comparison to these legacy businesses. Business people new to the cannabis industry in New York will enter the marketplace with clean cash and records and with experience navigating regulatory landscapes. The need for minimizing red tape and unnecessary burdens is therefore essential to ensuring the industry can truly be equitable. I was therefore glad to see that the Adams administration is developing resources to help New Yorkers through the licensing process. As part of the mayor's blueprint for the city's recovery, the administration proposed nearly $5 million to develop the cannabis industry, including launching outreach, community engagement campaigns. These campaigns intended to make New Yorkers aware of opportunities to participate in the industry, provide technical assistance to support applicants navigating the licensing process, and help businesses access financing, pro bono legal services, and marketing assistance. I look forward to hearing from the administration today about the state of these resources and other ways the city is going to work with our state partners to ensure that equity-centered goal of New York's cannabis legislation is able to come into fruition. While the state licensing process is currently being developed, businesses in New York City have already begun selling cannabis products without a license. The Office of Cannabis Management has sent out over 50 cease and desist letters to stores selling cannabis products. For the consumers of New York, unlicensed stores selling cannabis products may pose certain dangers. There's no quality control for these products, and these stores threatened the carefully established framework for social and economic equity applicants. I look forward to hearing from the administration today on how they are collaborating with the Office of Cannabis Management to identify and enforce the law against unlicensed stores selling cannabis products. As a new industry is established in New York City, there may be issues in the developed regulations and enforcement actions taken by the state and city agencies. The input of advocates at this stage is therefore so essential in ensuring the state and the city do not make avoidable mistakes. I look forward to hearing from advocates today about what city resources are needed to develop this industry equitably and how the council can be a partner on these issues. With that said, I'd like to thank my central staff team, Senior Counsel Stephanie Jones, Senior Policy Analyst Noah Meixler, and my Chief of Staff, Alex Anderson, for their hard work. I'll now turn it over to our moderator, Alex.
Members of the administration who will be testifying or answering questions today, please raise your right hands. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before these committees today, and to respond honestly to council member questions?
I do.
Thank you. You may begin when ready.
Great. Thank you. Good morning, Chairs Farias, Velasquez, and members of the Committees on Economic Development and Consumer Worker Protection. My name is Kevin D. Kim. I am the Commissioner of the New York City Department of Small Business Services, or SBS. I am joined today by Commissioner Sadea Sherman of the Mayor's Office of Equity and Monique Reichenstein, Senior Associate at the New York City Economic Development Corporation, or EDC. We are pleased to testify today on the city's efforts to support the emerging adult use cannabis industry. We are eager to work closely with the Council to deliver equity in the industry. On March 31st, 2021, New York State enacted Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act, or MRTA, legalizing adult use cannabis. The law also created new state offices, the Office of Cannabis Management, OCM, and the Cannabis Control Board, CCB, to oversee and regulate the new industry, including the licensing process. The MRTA has several ambitious equity components, including a goal that 50% of licenses be for social and economic equity applicants, defined as those from communities disproportionately impacted by the enforcement of cannabis prohibition, among other criteria. In spring 2022, OCM began to release regulations and award licenses, the first of which was the, quote, conditional cultivator license. OCM has indicated it will finalize rules and open applications for the first tranche of roughly 100 to 150 conditional adult use retail dispensary, or CARD, licenses in the coming weeks. CARD licenses will be reserved for justice-involved individuals, with the goal for this group to be the first to market, with additional general retail licenses coming online shortly afterwards. The legalization of cannabis represents the city with the opportunity to address the harms of the war on drugs and ensure equitable access to the jobs and wealth created. Despite near equal rates of cannabis use across communities and historic inequality in enforcement, the historic inequality in enforcement is stark. In 2020, 90% of cannabis-related arrests in New York City were people of color. With the industry expected to generate nearly $1.3 billion in sales in its first year and create between 19,000 to 24,000 jobs over the next 3 years in New York City, the Adams administration recognizes this once-in-a-generation opportunity to invest meaningfully in economic equity and justice. From day one, Mayor Adams made the promotion of equity a primary focus of this administration. It is at the center of our work at SBS and at the heart of the city's approach to the cannabis industry. SBS, along with our sister agencies, is proud to speak today on behalf of the city's on-the-ground outreach, public education, and business service efforts. We have already hit the ground running by convening legacy entrepreneurs, potential licensees, community stakeholders, and industry experts, because we know that listening and learning is critical to this industry's success. Having received $4.8 million approximately in the fiscal year 23 adopted budget, we are actively building a dedicated team here at SBS to work hand in hand with OCM, community stakeholders, and elected leaders like yourselves to get deep into the communities. We will leverage the partnership of community-based organizations with trusted relationships to ensure we reach all New Yorkers interested in getting involved in the cannabis industry, particularly those most harmed by the war on drugs. SBS will provide services throughout every step of the business process, from license application to launch and beyond. Even before application for licenses open, we are connecting aspiring cannabis entrepreneurs to SBS business support services, including no-cost business courses, business planning, and additional technical assistance. Once applications are available, SBS will provide direct one-on-one technical assistance to help business owners prepare and submit their applications. However, applying for and receiving a license is just the first step for a small business, and SBS is here to help with all the steps that come afterwards, including navigating through New York City government. Moreover, as the industry grows, we will integrate workforce programming to connect New Yorkers to good jobs in the cannabis industry and ancillary industries, including those businesses that don't touch the plant, such as accounting services, security services, and others. At SBS, we know we need to work closely with our sister agencies to build the strongest foundation for this industry to succeed. For example, in partnership with EDC, we are exploring ways to support social equity applicants' access to affordable financing and real estate that complement the state's existing efforts. With the Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice, MOCJ, we are identifying credible messengers for outreach into the justice-involved and legacy communities. We are working closely with MOE to ensure equity is centered across the city's overall strategy. We recognize that New Yorkers will have questions about public health and community safety, and we are collaborating with Department of Health and Mental, DOH-MH, proactively to answer those questions. In closing, New York has the opportunity and the responsibility to develop a thriving and truly equitable cannabis industry that creates good jobs and builds wealth in communities most adversely impacted by the war on drugs. For New Yorkers interested in learning more, we encourage checking out the city's resources at nyc.gov/cannabis or reaching out to SBS at cannabis@sbs.nyc.gov, as well as frequenting the state's website at cannabis.ny.gov for the latest information on licenses and regulations. Thank you for your time today on a topic that reflects the core values of what we do at SBS. As always, we value your partnership and support in putting equity at the forefront of this industry, and we are happy to answer any questions you may have today. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony, Commissioner. I'd also like to acknowledge Council Member Brewer has joined us. Okay. So we'll just get right into it if that's okay. My first question is to kind of go back to the state regulations. Does the administration have any concerns about the current regulations from the state around social and economic equity applicants?
Thank you for the question, Council Member. As you know, the state is currently diligently working to finalize the regulations. During the public comment period, DOH-MH, who unfortunately couldn't be here today, did also make comments on the public comment period and emphasize the need for equity and equity investment and the proper tracking for those services. So we know that this is a true opportunity for New York City to have the ability to really take advantage of a once-in-a-generation opportunity.
Great. And how is the administration assisting the state's Office of Cannabis Management in encouraging more New Yorkers to apply from communities that have been disproportionately impacted by cannabis prohibition, if at all?
So we are working very closely with OCM. We have multiple calls with them on a weekly basis, and we are already talking with them about how we can best support all of their efforts extending into New York City. We know that the pre-application process, even as I mentioned in my testimony, is very important. It's not just about getting a license, it's about being able to run a successful business once you get a license. So with OCM, they've been great partners to explain to us where they are at different stages, and we are able to prepare and get ready for that moment. But in the meantime, they've been also referring people over to us to help with the pre-business application stage, meaning we are able to provide at no cost to New Yorkers the various services to run a successful business, including business courses, including learning about how to incorporate a business, how to create a business plan, how to do bookkeeping. So those are all services that anyone needs to run a successful business, including those who will eventually get a license.
And just for me, because I'm actually not quite sure on it fully, what does the department or the division look like in SBS? How many personnel, who's assisting, that kind of?
Sure. So currently we have about 370 people in our agency. We are fortunate to have received the approximately $4.8 million in funding for the fiscal year 23 through the fiscal year 23 adopted budget to be able to add a dedicated team working on cannabis. Just today, the posting went up for the founding director of cannabis services.
Okay.
And so that team will be housed within SBS, and they will be working solely on doing the outreach and the education and everything else that's needed to ensure that we promote equity in this industry.
What's the goal for the team size? Are we looking at 5 people, 30 people for the 5 boroughs?
So there will be the founding director as well as a team that will incorporate our entire outreach team. So right now, SBS, we have our in-house outreach team that's going to assist and prioritize the education and outreach for the cannabis industry. But the founding director, plus there will be people dedicated. The exact number is something we're just trying to finalize to maximize capacity within SBS, but that's something we can share with you once we set that down.
Great, thank you. And in terms of outreach and materials to get people in, can you provide an update on what resources the city has currently launched to benefit city residents seeking to participate in the cannabis industry? Like, is there a marketing campaign, promotional materials, subway ads? I've seen New York State stuff driving around my community, but haven't seen quite much from the city just yet.
So currently, we've had flyers made, distributed. As you may know, we have our mobile RV that goes out deep into the communities, and we've been handing out flyers to really direct people both to the state website, because there you can find the latest and greatest on the rules and regulations, but to also understand, again, all the business services that we're providing right now. Once the applications are out, SBS is getting ready to be able to help with the technical assistance part, as we do with, for example, the MWBE program and applications and in other areas. But we are also we have created a website as well, and that is something that we're helping to direct people to. Again, a lot of the finalization of the rules and regulations are being undertaken right now by the state. So the website itself is directing people to those business services that we provide, maybe not specifically tailored to cannabis yet, because we want to make sure that it's aligned with everything that the state comes out in their final rules and regulations.
Sure, thank you. With the legalization at the state level, each of our communities has seen an uptick in like bodegas, smoke shops, et cetera, selling without a license. And my colleague, Chair Velasquez, will jump and deep dive into licensing for sure. But I just have a couple of questions around it. Does the administration have a sense of how many stores right now in the city are currently selling cannabis products without a license, outside of what you've testified on with the 50 or so cease and desist letters?
So we don't have an exact number, but what is clear is that currently there are no legal retail licenses out there, so that anybody who is selling is not selling within the regulated MRTA structure, and that's something that we're waiting for the state on to finalize, not just the future licensing rules, but how they're going to proceed with enforcement. And we want to be strong partners with them, and that's something we're discussing with them. But until those get finalized on exactly how they will approach enforcement, we want to be ready and prepared to be their partners here in New York City on that front.
Sure. I guess our larger concern, and I'm going to say our because our communities both are very concerned around this, is that these protocols or rules and regulations from the state might not come until the new year. And so what is the city doing in the meantime, either in anticipation or in creating a database, or like how are we regulating or maintaining this in and around until we get regulations? Right now that seems more reactive, or like we're hoping that we can coast and things will be fine until the state gives us some direction. But we're New York City, we can give direction.
I think the key point here is that the state law makes it clear that they're not trying to criminalize
Sure.
the sale of cannabis at this time. They've made it clear that they want to get people who are selling currently to come into the regulated market. And so a lot of our outreach and a lot of our focus right now is reaching out to the legacy market, to people who are currently selling, to explain to them that this opportunity is coming and it's very near, and that they should prepare. And one of the ways to prepare is not to be involved in selling illegally. And the other way to prepare is to understand, again, all the business principles that are needed to have a successful business when the market does come. The unregulated market in other states, and we've studied other states, EDC has done an extensive research on that, and so has OCM, and what we've learned is that the unregulated market still plays a big part, for example, in California. There's 75, 80%, and what we're trying to learn from that lesson is that we need to do a better job right now at the outset, outreaching to the legacy market to explain the benefits of actually participating in this market. But that's something that we're constantly talking to OCM about, and I think the enforcement rules will come sooner than later. I don't want to speak for the state, but I think that it would be best that we align our strategies in line with what the state law is mandating.
Yeah, I totally hear that. There's a part of me that's quite frankly frustrated with a little bit of that response, only because what we've seen in states like California, like Massachusetts, is that the unregulated market actually gets to thrive because there isn't actually preliminary steps taken beforehand. And so whether or not the state wants to take their time and give us something in September or December or February of next year, we will still have a market that can still thrive, that people will still feel comfortable with or go to. And those folks, that were justice involved or a part of that illicit market, if we're not actually giving them the cash, right, or giving them the loan or giving them the heads up, they're going to have to maintain that market or maintain in that place because there aren't any actual steps to bring them in. And so I hear you. I mean, I'm going to go into my next question because it does involve the social and economic equity applicants, but I really do think the city needs to look at a plan or create something in between, or have a more robust effort to pulling people from the legacy market in that's actually going to give them the 3 steps ahead. Right now we have folks that are starting at third base and being able to come make a play home, and all of those folks in the legacy market are literally starting outside of the stadium, right? They're not even involved yet. So I'm sorry, I'm a Bronxite using a baseball reference here, but that's literally what we're up against in our communities. So under the state cannabis law, individual social and economic equity applicants need to demonstrate that they are justice involved, which means that either they or their close family members were convicted of a marijuana-related offense during prohibition, and that they have held at least a 10% stake in a profitable business for at least 2 years. Doesn't this seem like an onerous requirement? And won't it preclude a large percentage of potential justice-involved applicants who are not also small business owners?
I think what is very important is to just clarify a little bit about the first tranche of licenses versus the general license opportunities that will come thereafter. So in terms of the first tranche that they're talking about, where I said the card applicants, that's where you need to qualify with those 2 particular criteria that you mentioned, that you have to have a marijuana conviction in the state of New York, either yourself, your spouse, your parents, or your children, not your siblings, but the family members that I just outlined, and, as you mentioned, have a 10% stake in a business that was profitable at some point in your life, 2 years of that. So those criteria only apply to the first 100 to 150 card licenses that was referenced in my testimony. Thereafter, the licensing process opens up to everyone, and even if you don't have either of those 2 criteria, you will be eligible to get a license. The benefit to what's happening with the card is similar to what you just said about what other states did wrong, in that the New York State's law, MRTA, is specifically designed to give these folks that they want to help and target and really focus on to get a head start and be first in market. So that's why those 100 to 150 conditional licenses, the card licensees, will get this head start, not just with getting their licenses first, but New York State has created a $200 million fund around supporting those particular card licensees in the first tranche. They will help them get, through DASNY's partnership as well, actual space. They will get money to actually renovate and open up the space. So it's almost, I would say, the financial support that you had mentioned and referenced, for this conditional first group of card licensees, there is that support. And then thereafter, I think the state wants to take a look at that and figure out what works and what doesn't work. And the city too. I think this is something that we're all going to learn from. But it is different than what they've done in other states. And so I feel like, just to clarify, that those two criteria that you mentioned only apply for this first tranche of licenses and not for everyone else.
Great. So just, I guess, another potential reason for denial of an equity application includes a finding that the individual is not a person of good moral character. Doesn't that seem really subjective? And I don't even know if it's a legal enforceable standard, but do we know if that's language is in there, if that's legally enforceable?
I think it would be out of my place to opine on kind of state law and the way they've written it, so I'll just leave it at that.
It's going to impact us.
Yeah, I think a lot of what's come out of the MRTA laws stems from some of the state liquor authority laws that have been in place, and that's where that language may or may not have come from. But I don't think it's in my place to opine on whether it's legal or not.
Okay.
So.
In relation to figuring out the data and the statistics of people that were previously justice involved and now have a business or some of these other requirements, are we working with any of our agency partners and or nonprofit organizations throughout the city to say, I mean, obviously we can't, there's a lot of different reasons why we can't ask folks if they were previously incarcerated or anything like that. But we do have nonprofit partners that get city money, that have helped folks get a leg up, start. Are we working with any of these partners to find those people to bring them in ahead of time?
So one of the things we've done is we held a roundtable, mayoral roundtable, where we brought in 30 or so stakeholders, and we're continuing to outreach to various partners and continuing that conversation. Some of the folks are here in this room for the public hearing session. And we're also working very closely with MOE, MOCJ. We've also outreached to the district attorney's offices. And so we very much know that this is going to be an all-out, all-in interagency collaboration. And that's something else that I think really we recognized from watching other states fail, is that they created in many ways, or many times, just an office to try to do this without understanding all the relationships and interagency collaboration that's really required to succeed. And that's something we're getting ahead of and doing that right now. On all these calls, we have not just multiple calls with OCM, but we have interagency city hall calls. And I think, frankly speaking, this is something that's been a hallmark of this administration thus far, is there's a lot of interagency calls and conversations because we understand we don't operate in a silo. And for this industry in particular to succeed, EDC, MOE, MOCJ, DOH, MH, SBS, we've all got to be working very closely together as one unit.
Sure. What ways are SBS and EDC working to incorporate existing programs and resources available today in the cannabis industry that are planned into like outreach efforts and collaboration with social equity entrepreneurs?
So as I mentioned, from SBS's side, and I'll turn it over to EDC shortly thereafter, but from SBS's side, we're doing continuous outreach with the stakeholders. I'm having one-on-one calls. Again, we're trying to identify the new founding director of cannabis services, someone who is going to be a credible messenger to the community. That's another thing we've learned from speaking with the legacy market players, is that you need a credible messenger to be able to communicate and to outreach. Government isn't necessarily going to cut it in a lot of these communities, as you referenced before. There's a trust issue. We need to make sure we find the right team, dedicated team that's going to lead this effort. And so that's what we're working on right now with the adopted budget money that's coming in. And then on EDC, I'll turn it over to Monique Reichenstein.
As Commissioner Kim mentioned, the city's work to develop an equitable cannabis industry cuts across agencies and focuses on individuals and communities most impacted by the war on drugs. At EDC, in collaboration with SBS, we're exploring how to support cannabis entrepreneurs with a focus on access to capital and real estate required to start and grow their businesses. We recognize that we are two agencies here speaking to you today, but there are many agencies that are not represented that are also part of this conversation. And we look forward to working with you as with the other agencies as well on this work.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. I'd like to even just offline just kind of throw around some folks that you are talking to make sure the folks that are helping me prepare for things like this and
Absolutely.
keep in the know are included in that dialogue.
And that's something I'd like to emphasize today is that this is a new emerging industry, and there's nobody better than the council members who know their district, who know the people who've been most impacted. We need your help, and we are open to that. So if there's anything you'd like to do to set up regular communication just on this topic alone, SBS, EDC, MOCJ, all of us were very open to that, and we really are asking for your help at this time because we've learned so much from listening to the legacy players, the community stakeholders. Community boards as well are chiming in, and they obviously are very much in line with what you're doing in your districts. And so those are conversations we'd like to have upfront now to avoid some of the misunderstandings, the education that's necessary to make sure that the rollout is successful. Because the worst thing that'll happen is we end up in a community and because of misinformation, that misunderstanding happens, and then the equity goals that we're trying to achieve are being hampered by that misinformation and misunderstanding.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think our priority as local electeds is to keep our communities safe, but also to make sure those that could take advantage of opportunities, especially if they've been policed for decades and left out, get included in that. I have one follow-up for you, Commissioner Kim, and then I just have a couple EDC questions, and I'll turn it over to my colleague. How big is the second round, because I won't use that word, Alex, of licenses, and when will those start getting issued?
So that, again, will be up to the state. They're the ones who are driving the entire licensing process. But what I do know is that there is no defined limit as of now for the second round, that it will be open to the public, general public, and all New Yorkers. I think it's similar to currently anyway, and again, anything can change while they're deliberating and diligently working to finalize this, but it's similar to liquor licenses where there's no defined limit, but there will be factors probably considered in making sure that a community either isn't impacted with oversaturation issues or, that you're not leading to a situation where you're not helping these businesses succeed. So the short answer, though, is that currently, as I know it, there is no limit, and that's been the understanding thus far, but things can change over this period.
Great. Just going back to some of your testimony, I'm sorry, they've come up, I've written them down. There was a commitment from the city to include workforce programming, as you mentioned, to connect New Yorkers to good jobs. Will there be a partnership with the Office of Workforce Development? And how does SBS see their role and commitment to workforce?
So one of the major things we do at SBS is workforce development, and that's why we know that in this industry, as I had mentioned in the testimony, the market isn't just about, and the industry isn't just about businesses that touch the plant. It's not just about the licenses. It does also have an enormous economic impact when you start talking about all the ancillary services, accounting services, security services. There's so many other legal services. There are so many other services that will benefit from this industry. And we want to make sure that those who were most impacted by the war on drugs not just have the first opportunities to get licenses, but to also be in a prime position to benefit when the supporting industries, the foundational industries to support this industry are up and running. And so that's something we're very much focused on. I don't know if EDC has anything they want to add to that on workforce.
No, we agree. We think cannabis is both an economic opportunity as well as a racial justice opportunity, and one of those once-in-a-generation opportunities where you kind of get one shot to get this right. And we think that ensuring access to wealth-generating opportunities means focusing on the licenses, the 9 different license types, as well as other opportunities that will arise from the legal market.
Thank you. And just a clarifying question in your testimony, Commissioner. You have here in 2020, 90% of cannabis-related arrests in New York City were of people of color, and the industry expected to generate nearly $1.3 billion in sales in its first year and create between 19,000 and 24,000 jobs over 3 years. Just wanted to know where these numbers are exactly coming from. Is there a commitment somewhere, or?
Oh, I think those are estimates, but I will get you the exact source since I
Perfect.
don't have that right with me, but we will send that over.
Thank you so much. And I'll just ask a couple questions of EDC. Hey, Team EDC. So just to kind of discuss around some of the opportunities we have for dispensary owners, are there banking options that dispensary owners will have in New York City? Are there options beyond local credit unions? And is EDC partnering with the private sector to develop any bridge local programs for the cannabis industry?
So as Commissioner Kim mentioned, New York State is launching a $200 million public-private fund to provide loans and real estate for conditional retail licensees. At EDC, our goal is to complement the state's efforts. To that end, we've released a request for expressions of interest, or also known as an RFEI, to gauge potential interest in capitalizing and operating a loan fund, in addition to gathering feedback on broader capital access and real estate interventions. We are currently reviewing those responses to assess next steps and need with our partners across city agency, and we'll continue to keep your office apprised.
Has the city established, or does it have plans to establish programs that help inform the public who qualifies for a dispensary license and how to apply for those? And is EDC partnering with the private sector to promote that for city residents to apply?
So as Commissioner Kim mentioned, a lot of our work at EDC overlaps with SBS, and that is something that we are working on in collaboration, also with the state and community and industry partners.
So just a question around some of the city and EDC properties that we've had. Has the city and the EDC considered alternative uses of city-owned property for cannabis? I know we've seen some sale of our city properties, and I just wanted to know if there's any general interest, instead of selling city property, to revitalizing that and maybe offering opportunity to those in the legacy community or for startup.
We are surely happy to explore those possibilities. That was one of the reasons of our request for expressions of interest, to understand what our options are and what makes sense as next steps with regards to our real estate assets. Personally, do not manage our real estate assets, so I would be happy to connect you with some of our team members to discuss this further.
Yeah, I would love that. And last question for now. Will the city help promote the cannabis business to residents and tourists? And if so, in what ways? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. So again, as I mentioned, we have our website up, which will continue to get populated with the latest information. We're also working with NYC & Co., who does a lot of the international tourist outreach, and we're making sure that we want to direct people to the regulated market. And as you mentioned, we want people who are going to be partaking in the industry in whatever form, as consumers or retailers, to be dealing with the safest products. The idea is to direct them to the regulated market, because we know without supporting the regulated market, this whole endeavor may not be successful as much as we'd like it to be.
Great. Thank you, folks, for entertaining my questions. I'll now turn it over to Chair Velasquez.
Hi, great seeing you again. And thank you for coming to the Bronx and having a forum to reach us where we're at. So when we're talking about outreach, I appreciate that very much. We understand New York City, New York State as a whole will be the next green rush, if you will. And how we manage this, we need to give it back to the communities that are affected. We are Bronxites, and it's hurt our communities so much, and so we want to make sure we're driving this back home and making sure our communities are close enough to being made whole, if not made whole entirely. With that being said, I wanted to understand, how has the administration thought about or had conversations on planning to establish a grant or loan program for New Yorkers seeking to apply for this retail license?
As I mentioned before, we have released a request for expressions of interest for this exact thing. We are currently in the process of reviewing those responses with our city agencies and determine next steps and assess need. We will definitely keep you in the loop on how that progresses, but we would love to further the conversation with you on how we meet those needs best.
Thank you. And so just taking it a couple of steps back, for folks that don't know, you had mentioned 9 licenses that will be released. What are those, and how are folks applying to them? And are there any unique situations where you can only apply to certain ones, right? 2 out of 4 and things of that nature?
I can give you the list of the 9 licenses. They all start with adult use, so I'll skip that. But there's the cultivator license, there's the processor license, there's the nursery license, there's the distributor license, there's the micro business license, there's the retail dispensary license, and that's pretty much what many people are talking about right now. But it is important, as you have emphasized, to know that there are 8 other licenses. There's the delivery license, there's the cooperative license, and there's the on-site consumption license. That's where people will be able to consume, usually probably mixed in with food products. And so those are the 9 licenses. The 2 license categories only available to the licensed hemp growers are the conditional cultivator and the conditional processor licenses. So unless you're a licensed hemp grower, you're really dealing with 7 other potential licenses.
Thank you for that. You mentioned earlier about outreach, right? Making sure our communities are aware of what's going on. How do you target the communities? How do you find, what's your level of detail?
Well, we know through our sister agencies where the communities most targeted during the war on drugs were and where they continue to exist. So a lot of our efforts are focused on getting into those communities. We are partnering up with MOCJ and MOE and everybody else that we know has data on that, and making sure that, for example, the community partners that we're outreaching to are located in those particular communities. I don't know if you had anything you'd like to add, Commissioner Sherman?
Sure, just to build on Commissioner Kim's point, in addition to the outreach that's happening right now, we're working with those groups to really inform a robust marketing and outreach strategy across the city with a particular focus on Black and brown communities and communities that have had high rates of incarceration and arrest, as well as bringing in a variety of community-based organizations, but particularly organizations that have worked with justice-involved individuals.
And so, and I know Amanda alluded to, Chair Farias alluded to it earlier, with California and Massachusetts and those lessons learned, how do we make sure or ensure that those folks that are coming from those states are not priority? How do we ensure that our communities come first, right? How do I know if, like, one California business comes in and says, hey, I know you, and just becomes friends with one person and there drives the whole market? What are we thinking about that? How are we stopping that?
Sure, I can start and jump in. The focus of the city's efforts are on these communities, right? And so making sure that we have the resources and supports for them to enter the market, go through the licensing process, and then be able to succeed. We also, as part of the training and technical assistance to those businesses, want to make sure that they also are able to understand predatory business arrangements as well, too, right? And that they have templates and understanding of agreements, so that they also are able to succeed and be a local business. But I'll turn to Commissioner Kim around some of our other efforts.
And I know the state has been very active in knowing the communities that they need to hit, and they've been partnering with us, sharing information, and we've been doing the same. But I think that's, again, another point of emphasis where we really could use your partnership to identify the people who are local, who are community, who are New Yorkers first and foremost. But the emphasis of leveraging our community-based organization partnerships is so important because they know who the people are in their communities, and they know who came from, like you may have mentioned, I don't want to single out particular states, but if they are the ones who had been, or their family members had been the most impacted by the war on drugs in New York, those are the people we're prioritizing.
Thank you. So modeling the usage and the licensing when we're talking about the way that these laws were structured or are being structured, we often hear it compared to the state liquor authority, right? And how the process is. And we know, right, that there are flaws. Serving on a community board for so long, I saw the dangers and how it had impacted our businesses and our communities. Any lessons learned there, and how are we addressing any challenges that have been presented with the liquor licenses?
I think there are different very important differences that the state has pointed out, but I would defer to the state in giving you more of a clarification of how the MRTA is housed under the State Liquor Authority officially, but how they've taken that as a model, but then made changes to try to, I think, correct or make it appropriate for the cannabis industry as they know it. And so I would have to really defer to the state on the particular legal differences that they've made. I think the important point is that they did study the State Liquor Authority laws very well, very carefully, and have made the changes they deem necessary to avoid the pitfalls of other states and what's happened there to make it better here.
So the state's cannabis law prohibits the sale of marijuana on the same premises as alcohol or food. But at the same time, you mentioned a license that does include food, it being used as food. So A, can we explain what's the rationale behind the initial requirement? And two, how is this license going to work?
So the portion where currently as the law is written, and it may change again, but currently as it's written, it's my understanding that you're correct, that you cannot have on-site consumption and a liquor license. And I would leave it again to the state to have to explain that to you. My personal understanding is that there's science and data behind the dangers of when you mix a certain level of cannabis consumption with alcohol. And, that's part of the rationale that may have initiated the initial part of the rule. But again, it's all state laws that I wouldn't be qualified to comment on at this time.
We're just talking here, so wouldn't it
We are.
preclude existing food and beverage establishments from entering into the market? Our goal is to make sure our communities have an opportunity, and it seems that when we have such a narrow scope for these initial licenses, that we're excluding so many folks from within, and that the only ones that are going to make it are the ones from outside. So that's, I guess, our frustration and our concern.
Yeah, go for it.
I would add some clarification that we are not the state, but I think some of the reasoning behind creating 9 different license types was to actually create more opportunities, that there are more opportunities for an individual to access a license and start a business. But at EDC and SBS, we recognize that there are real challenges to enter the cannabis business, not only to get in, but to be successful. And there will be a lot of pressure from outside operators. Our biggest focus is ensuring that those who want to be involved in the industry in New York City have the resources, supports, access to education. And access to education doesn't just mean how do you run a cannabis industry, right? It's the whole process of who do you need to talk to, what are the zoning questions, et cetera. So we definitely, we share your concern for the challenges that entrepreneurs will face, and we are working very closely to, one, hear from community members of what are they seeing on the ground, but also learning from other states and the challenges they have faced, because I think the one advantage that New York City has is we are not the first people to legalize cannabis. So I'm not sure if anyone else has anything to add.
And I guess just one last question before I turn it back to Alex here. When we're talking about that $200 million fund for these 100 to 150 licenses, it's set up initially. How are you going to measure success with these businesses, and what's the involvement thereafter, right? If it's initial for how long? 2 years, 5 years? When are you going to go back and evaluate, and what does that evaluation process look like?
So that will be run by the state. They will have their own reporting standards set up. As for the city's efforts to a loan fund, we're still reviewing responses, but we recognize that transparency and reporting will be important, so we'll definitely consider that as we develop those strategies.
Are we providing or looking to provide assistance for that state reporting, and are we going to create a comprehensive plan in place for that?
We are in conversation with the state, and with all the regulations, there is an opportunity to provide comments on how we think it should be better. Those comments are open to everyone, the city, individuals, and so the city is definitely working to incorporate comments across agencies to reflect and advocate for that transparency.
Are there any deadlines with that testimony or that information that we can give?
Right
Back to the
now, there are 3 regulations that are out for comment.
Okay.
There's the home grow, but I can also give this to Kevin because I would say there are 3 out right now, but the deadlines are not for another month or so.
Okay.
I actually can't give you the exact, but I will definitely get you that information right after the hearing.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Alex? Sorry, Chair Farias.
It's okay. I just have one follow-up on the licenses, and this is just like piqued my interest. So with the delivery license and with our efforts to wanting to keep more cars off the road and the municipality having public-private partnerships with City Bike and Lime and our e-scooter partners, have we looked at developing, or has there been a discussion around monitoring or creating a partnership between the municipal multimodal transit options and the delivery license? I think if we're looking at delivery for cannabis with local businesses, it's technically like last mile transport or logistics. And I'm just wondering off of any conversations that maybe have been had, or are we interested in maybe continuing that conversation?
I think we're definitely interested in continuing this conversation with you about the delivery aspect of it. To be honest, we've been focused on the card and the other licenses, but we have also been studying all the other licenses, and so I think having that conversation with you and taking in ideas and feedback would be very important at this time, so we look forward to that.
Yeah, I would love to maybe start thinking about that, especially if we're looking at legacy partners and folks that are already trusted in communities. we might as well look at other ways to make them more mobile. That's not a car. At this moment, and I don't have any other follow-up, I'd like to first acknowledge that we've been joined by Council Member Kevin Riley, and he will give a short statement or a long statement, however long, on your bill. Oh, and Council Member for the day is with him. Awesome.
Yeah, I'm with my daughter, Brooke Riley, too. Thank you, Chair Farias and Chair Velasquez, for having and hosting this hearing. We're talking about cannabis, something that I feel New York City should be a part of the conversation. And today I'm introducing Intro 285, establishing an office that's sole responsibility is dedicated to ensuring comprehensive, equitable, and economic expansion of New York City's cannabis industry is fundamental to advancing the state legislation and regulation. Our underserved communities need to be educated on the health and wellness of cannabis, canceling the negative stereotypes that have systematically positioned Black and brown people on the losing side of the cannabis regulation, legislation, and criminalization. Having the opportunity to start the groundwork, meeting with organizations, partnering with business owners, hosting spaces to hear the needs of the community, there is a growing interest and eagerness to be successful participants in the cannabis rollout in NYC, and they deserve a seat at the table. We are starting to see a rise in unlicensed cannabis businesses in our neighborhoods. People want to be involved, but they don't have or know about the resources, information, and the financial assistance to jumpstart their businesses the right way. A citywide Office of Cannabis Business Services will be the instrument in this groundwork. This agency will advocate for marginalized communities of color, giving them the tools to be successful in the business, making Intro 285 essential to New York City success in cannabis and protecting communities who were historically targeted and imprisoned during the prohibition of marijuana. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Riley. We will now go to member questions. If the sergeants can put a 5-minute timer on the clock, thank you. And we will now go to Councilmember Brewer.
Thank you very much. I have a few questions. One, I've been in touch a lot with Senator Krueger, who obviously is sponsor on the state level. And I am a little confused, even listening to you, about how you're going to coordinate with the state. I know that you certainly have been talking to them and you're looking to them for guidance and so on. But for those of us in the community who are trying to figure out, because I do get tons of calls about the illegal selling, not the individuals, but the trucks and the stores and the trucks and the store. My entire district is full of trucks. Those green trucks are everywhere. I think I got about 10 of them, minimum. So we're trying to get them towed. I got one towed, not bad. And we're working on getting the rest of them towed. So the question, but in order to do it, I had to have a meeting with the police department, the state cannabis office, and Consumer Affairs City. All three on the phone, get one towed truck. So my question is, down the line, do you have some sense of how you're going to be working? Does the public call 311? Does the public call you, I guess, for getting the business started? Do we call the state for, how is that all going to work? Because you got two issues. You got the folks who want jobs and entrepreneurial and the 9 categories, and then you got the people complaining. So how does that work out in the future, or do you have any sense?
I think the answer is that, honestly, we are waiting for the enforcement regulations to get finalized, because once we know what the actual enforcement regulations are, then I think the plan will become more apparent. I think that we know that we have to support the regulated market and do everything we can, because if the unregulated market remains, then we won't be able to achieve the goals that the state and the city are all striving for, which goes back to why outreach, education, everything that we're doing to get the unregulated market ready and prepared for the regulated market once all the rules are finalized. That's where the crux of our efforts are right now, to avoid some of the mistakes that happened in the other states with leaving the unregulated market untouched and not including them early on in the process.
Okay, so the trucks are considered the unregulated market?
Currently, anyone selling cannabis in New York State is not any, well, currently anyone selling retail cannabis is not
Well, I
within
know
the
it's
laws,
on,
so, yeah.
that's
so-
what people say,
Yeah,
but you giving me a T-shirt and put some cannabis in it, that's a donation, right? I got some T-shirt, yeah, I don't need another T-shirt. I got a T-shirt and some cannabis last night. Not bad, you know, but that's the donation. That's what the trucks are doing.
I know
Nice
this-
T-shirts.
yeah, yes, and
Anybody want it?
Councilmember, I know that the state is very aware of this gift exception that they had in the MRTA, that people are taking
Liberties.
advantage, however you want to look at it. I think they're looking at that very closely, and so we're
Okay.
waiting. the
I don't,
guidance.
I've been around too long, so I got all that stuff. I'm just saying, the trucks are out there, the smoke shops are selling, it's all happening. So I assume that once the regulations exist, then whoever is in those trucks, someone has a lot of money on those trucks, I don't know who's paying for those, will no longer be able to get a license. I don't know, I hope somebody's paying attention to that. Just FYI, you know, when you do your regulations. Second thing is people are concerned about children getting, being sold without regulation because, I mean, they're putting them in the M&Ms. That's the newest thing too. Cannabis and the M&Ms. That's also coming out of the truck and it goes with the T-shirt. So that's for kids. So how do we, again, which agency should constituents being reach out to now with their concerns? Do you have any sense of that, or we're just waiting for the state regulations? Because kids' candy is part of the deal right now. It's not supposed to be. No candy is supposed to include cannabis.
Correct, and anyone under 21 should not be using cannabis according to the current laws before they get finalized.
Right.
I would say that they can reach out to us, and we would definitely take the appropriate action as
Okay,
needed.
we've been reaching out to the state, just FYI, but
Got it.
so you know it's.
Well, enforcement, I think, will be led by the state in terms of how they're going to, it's similar to the liquor laws, like they do the enforcement part of it.
Okay, I'm just letting you know all of that's happening on the street, and I think you know it, but it's happening. Finally, NYCHA. I'm a big believer in NYCHA. I believe in the residents, I believe in the TA. Are you working with NYCHA? Because that would be an obvious place for entrepreneurial to be the way in which people could participate in this fabulous industry. Is somebody coordinating with residents and NYCHA?
Sure, I can speak to that. So there will be a focus on communities of color, right? NYCHA residents being certainly in communities of color, as well as folks who have been just as involved, and that we certainly coordination with our colleagues at NYCHA to make sure that we're reaching out to folks who want to start a business. There's already business support and development services that exist through the authority as well as with SBS. So there certainly is a pipeline of entrepreneurs to tap into, as well as making sure that people are connected to workforce opportunities.
Okay, I don't mind your answer, but it's not exactly what I want to hear. Because the business work that goes on in NYCHA needs improvement. So I would suggest that somebody make a concerted effort, not just, they're one of the groups, to work with the residents and the tenant associations. Because A, there would be many people who might qualify of the first 100 or whatever it is, but also they need support. And so I would love to hear more, like we are talking every day, we're talking to tenant association, community-based organizations, CBOs, et cetera, to work with individuals so that they do qualify. Is that something that you might think about doing?
Absolutely, and just to build on that, I certainly know firsthand that all the talent that exists in NYCHA and the need for customized services. And there certainly have been really successful models of very targeted, customized services and supports for NYCHA entrepreneurs. And so we certainly will make sure that that is incorporated in this program, as well as making sure that NYCHA residents are prepared for the workforce opportunities that will emerge, and making sure that that's targeted, that's customized.
Could you
We're working with the
update this
TAs.
committee with specifically
Absolutely.
what somebody is doing and not?
Sure.
Because I really feel strongly about it. All right, thank you very much. But I'll let you know, it's pretty much the Wild West out there right now. I'd love to find out who owns the trucks. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Brewer. We will now go to Councilmember Williams, followed by Councilmember Salamanca.
Hello.
I just wanted to clarify, you said that you don't know when the licenses are, because that was what you all said? Because there's a conditional processor license that came out today that closes August 31st, and there was a cultivator license that came out back in March and will be closing this week. So I think maybe that speaks to some of the things that we're saying is we want the city to be ahead of the curve. And so if we have agencies here that are not even all the way aware of like the opening and closing of licenses, that's alarming to me.
Just to clarify, this is the opening and closing of the public comment periods, which we can get back to you on the exact dates. But this is
No, I think that there are like license applications that are out.
You're
Yes,
correct
yeah.
about the cultivator and the processor licenses. With the processor license literally opening today, right? So those are the two licenses that are only available to licensed hemp farmers. I think when we were talking about when we're not sure when the rules will be finalized, we were talking more about the retail licenses as well as some of the other 7 licenses that are open to the general public.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that,
Of course. No,
as
that's-
agencies, we are aware of what's coming
Yes, we
down the pipe,
definitely are
because that
aware.
allows us to like plan and support the residents of New York City. So I know that some of my questions might be out of your wheelhouse, and so I do hope in advance that you work within your respective administrations. I'm sure the mayor's office is here somewhere to get us back the questions. So you mentioned that you're working with a host of agencies that are involved in cannabis. Can you share the agencies?
So as I'd mentioned, we are working with MOE, with EDC, MOCJ, with DOHMH. We also are talking to DCP about zoning, potential zoning issues. We've talked to BSA, DCWP. I mean, we include as many of the agencies on these calls as we find the issue to be relevant, but those are, I think, some of the core agencies that are on the calls.
So would you say SBS is almost serving as like a coordinator
Yes.
agency around cannabis? Okay.
Yeah.
So actually, to that point, the bill that Councilmember Riley introduced, do you have any opinions? Do you feel like it should be a separate office of cannabis?
We are excited about the nearly $4.8 million that the adopted budget has placed in our agency to create the dedicated team to be leading the city's efforts in all the coordination that we've just discussed. The founding director position was just posted today. We know that a lot of people have given recommendations on people who would be really well qualified to help with those efforts. So we believe that that dedicated team housed at SBS will be a strong advocate for the coordination efforts and for the community outreach and education portion.
Okay. Has the administration thought through strategies around local zoning, locations of licenses, hours of operation, building codes? I know some of this stuff will come through the community boards, but has there been some thinking around strategy and rules of engagement?
Yeah, a lot of it, again, will get dictated by the state licensing process because they may limit the number of hours and the type, like, for example, with the liquor laws, 4 a.m. kind of limit on serving. We don't know what the final portion of the retail license for the state until they get finalized. In terms of citing and other types of opportunities, I know EDC has been very active, and I don't know if you want to speak on it.
Yes, we're in active conversations with DOB and DCP so that when the regulations come out, we will understand the laws and be able to provide guidance.
Okay, and to that point, with EDC, I think I was told that there's incubator programs. Can you talk about the potential incubator programs that you have for cannabis?
So you're correct that the state in their law.
No, not the state. EDC. I know there's a health and beauty incubator, and there's been conversations around potentials to do stuff around cannabis. in terms of supporting businesses?
I am not familiar with the Health and Beauty Incubator, but I can surely connect you with the team to discuss this further.
Yeah, I think that might be something over at the Brooklyn Navy Yard you're talking
Yes.
about with the
Yes.
BNYC, Black Entrepreneur NYC program. We can get you more information on that with respect to cannabis. But in terms of specifically cannabis siting, EDC is actively in discussions and doing research on potential siting opportunities.
Okay, the other question that I have, I know there was a lot of conversation around the Social Equity Investment Fund, but there's also the Community Grants Reinvestment Fund. I know Mock J isn't here, but again, I'm wondering how the administration views that money. Are we proactively working with the state to make sure that New York City is getting the most benefits, because our city has been most disproportionately affected by the war on drugs? So just trying to understand if the administration is looking at that fund, aware of that fund, and thinking through when we do get the money, hopefully get the money, how we could utilize it to support the communities.
Absolutely. So the state MRTA has it so that the money goes back reinvested into the community, and the city is definitely prioritizing that. We want to make sure that when there's an allocation of the tax money that comes to the city, that we work very closely with OMB to understand how best to reinvest it into the communities that have been most harmed by the war on drugs.
Okay. I think I'm done for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Williams. We'll now go to Councilmember Salamanca,
Starting time.
who is virtual. Can you unmute yourself? Can the sergeants?
Hello,
There
can
we
you hear
go.
me?
Yes. Starting time.
How are you? Thank you. First, I want to thank the two chairs for today's hearing. Commissioner, hope all is well. Commissioner, I know that Councilmember Brewer asked all the tough questions, but I want to ask some of those same tough questions. In terms of enforcement, what agency is going to do the enforcement for the black market?
I think that's something that we're waiting to see what the final regulations are, because I know that the state, and again, I'll have to defer to the state, but I know that they're not trying to criminalize the unregulated market. And so all the strategies that they're considering, that's what we're waiting for, so that we can then have an appropriate city response.
Yeah, but there has to be some type of enforcement. You know, if not, what you're going to have is you're going to have individuals who are going to sell black market cannabis in front of these businesses at a discounted rate, which will hurt the businesses. So there has to be some type of enforcement to prevent these black market businesses from taking away from legal businesses.
I think the state is very keenly aware of that, because, as I had mentioned earlier, in other states where they didn't do the proper steps or have had challenges, I don't want to say they didn't do proper steps, actually, I take that back. I'm saying they have had challenges in dealing with the unregulated market. The state is devising, I know, civil recourses, and exactly as to what they are, they haven't been finalized. But once we know what they are, I think the city can appropriately coordinate the response on enforcement.
Is your agency going to have oversight over the cannabis industry?
I don't know if oversight's the right word, but our agency did get allocated the approximately $4.8 million in the adopted budget to be able to house a dedicated team to lead the city's outreach and education and business services, the technical assistance portion. And so we are definitely in coordination with all the agencies we had mentioned before to just make sure that this is really a city response and not just an SBS response.
Okay. Can your agency handle that responsibility? Do you have the manpower to do that, or do you think that this our responsibility should be handed off to another agency, such as, for example, BIC, the Business Integrity Commission?
I think that the agency at SBS, I think what we do very well is outreach, public education, business services, technical assistance, workforce development programming. We do a lot of the areas that we know any emerging industry will touch upon, and to make sure that we create the best foundation and opportunity for this particular industry to also succeed. I think that having the dedicated team at SBS in close cooperation with our sister agencies is the correct location for this team at this time.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you for your answers, and thank you, Madam Chairs, for allowing me to speak.
No problem. Thank you so much, Councilmember Salamanca. Next up will be Councilmember Riley.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Commissioner, for your testimony. $4.8 million. I know you said that you guys will be hiring staffers. And to piggyback on what Councilmember Salamanca said, I think this industry is very delicate. I think the outreach out there has to be very delicate, and it's going to need a lot of manpower. I personally don't believe SBS should be the agency that does this. I believe that you guys have a lot on your plate right now, and I just think that the sensitive issue on cannabis in our communities needs to be addressed and needs to have an agency that can actually focus on it with a clear lens. So with that being stated, I know the $4.8 million that was given to the administration, it's going to be given to SBS from the administration. Do you know how many community outreach staffers SBS will be hiring to kind of do this outreach? And I know I came in late, excuse my tardiness, but what marketing strategies have SBS been utilizing so far that could get communities updated on what's going on with cannabis?
Thank you for your comment and question. I think that well, let me start with the second part of your question. So the outreach that we've been focused on has been partnering up with OCM and being in many places that they are. We've gone to the Bronx Borough President's Cannabis Forums. We'll go into local council members' community forums. State senators have invited us. Queens College, the education services at Medgar Evers, wherever that portion, wherever the community's been inviting us, we've been going out to. But we're not just waiting for invitations. We've been proactive about wherever our RV goes. We have flyers made out. We have a website that's created that we've had out there. And then the dedicated team that becomes part of the fiscal year 23 budget, so July 1st when the money comes in, we have just posted for the founding director position. It will be a team that will be very robust. We're trying to figure out however many people we need to make sure we get this right is going to be allocated to this particular team. But we also have already embedded at SBS an extensive outreach team that works on getting all of our services out there. And so we are leveraging all of their relationships. Every community partner that we've worked with, CDFI, community boards and merchant associations, our bids. We've invited the OCM executive director to come to our bid meetings, the Business Improvement District, 76 of them throughout the city. We are out there trying to get the word out in terms of just physical flyers, but also through our website, through our community partners, and then through all of our sister agency relationships as well. But OCM has been a great partner with us and invited us to many of the places they're going into, or they're being invited into the city as well. So we look forward to just continuing this massive outreach, and we could really use your partnership and the city council members' support on that.
And we're looking forward to giving you that partnership. Now, I do know it's kind of difficult because you have to wait for the state. Is there any way we could be more aggressive to actually ask the state to allow us to have a seat at the table? I don't believe they're allowing us to have the seat at the table, and I believe this market is really going to impact New York City. When you think about New York State and cannabis, it's really going to impact New York City the most. So is there any way we could be more aggressive with the state to make sure that they're allowing us to see at the table? Because it feels like our hands are tied behind our back and we're waiting for the state to come up with these regulations, enforcements. We have things going on in our communities right now. So we're just trying to figure out a collaborative way we could actually address this. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Riley. And I just want to state for the record, I agree with you. We were asked to be reached out to from the Office of Cannabis Management at the state level, and they have yet to reach out to either one of the chairs for this hearing. Chair Velasquez and I have a couple of follow-ups, and then we will go into second round of questioning where we have up Councilmember Williams. Chair Velasquez?
So focusing a little bit more on the consumer side, as both Councilmember Brewer and Salamanca have mentioned, the market that is existing now, right? The ones that are all of a sudden popping up. As a community leader, I've got a lot of community members saying, what is being done about this? So what are your recommendations currently for community members that see a cannabis retail shop pop up that we all know is illegal? How do we go, and do we ask our community to go call 311? Who do you recommend they reach out to immediately?
I think they can certainly reach out to 311 anytime, but they can also reach out to us and we can help coordinate. I think one of the things you've been seeing is that in terms of the mobile food trucks anyway, that if they're violating, they're all subject to city laws currently on the books, including parking regulations, and that's something that has been a way to get certain trucks off because of unpaid parking tickets, for example. So I think there's a way to contact us and we can help coordinate where they need to go to
So
address
my
those
district
concerns.
doesn't have the food trucks. What I have are brick and mortars popping up, and more importantly, it's parties being thrown where they take event spaces, catering halls, these like mini catering halls, not the bigger ones, but the small ones, and they say, hey, for $50 you get food and weed, or you get liquor and weed. And so how do we go about that and make sure that we're working with the DA's office, with a local precinct, and with you guys? Is there something now during this transition that we can go to?
I think the challenging part is that we want to make sure that enforcement, that rules that come down from the state, and I'm sorry to continue to hark on that, but we want to be in alignment with state laws and the state initiative on this. So I think if you've been going to the state, I don't know how their response has been, but enforcement will be led by the state as it is in the case of the liquor industry, for example. So it's tricky, but I think that we are waiting for the enforcement guidelines to be set forth by the state before we can respond accordingly and appropriately.
And I hear you, and I'm not trying to minimize your efforts right now. I think our frustration is what can be done now in situations and in districts like ours that have been impacted by K2. And so we're not monitoring what type of cannabis is being sold. We don't know the potency. We don't know all that, and it's coming into our communities, and these are businesses that are undermining a whole process as well. And so what can we do right now? And it doesn't seem like there is anything we can do, so it's a dangerous world to look at, wouldn't you say?
I think you mentioned it in your statement about cease and desist letters. I know that is what the state is actively doing, and talking and making it clear that those who are selling illegally at this time are also jeopardizing their opportunity to qualify for a license should they choose to do so. And so I think the strategy that they have currently is the cease and desist letters. And we are just waiting for them to finalize the enforcement regulations so that we can really coordinate the response and address this issue that you're talking about that's in the communities right now.
I would just to build on that, On the consumer side, right, part of the public education campaign that's already happening from the state, but certainly will be part of public education of the city, is also making sure that consumers understand marijuana use, right, and the potential effects and what to look out for, et cetera. And so I think it'll be important that, in addition to the work that the city will do around enforcement, that we're also educating consumers, and that will be part of that education and outreach campaign.
Thank you. Would a civil enforcement structure be useful at this time during this transition period?
It's my understanding that the state is looking at all the different civil enforcement options, including studying those that have been effective in other states and cities. I know, for example, I've heard or I've read that California is also considering, for example, going after landlords. And so there are different types of strategies that are being discussed. It's not that the discussion's not happening, it's just that nothing's been finalized and adopted. And I think that the exploration and the analysis of all of those strategies are happening both on the state and city level. And we're just waiting for those rules to get finalized so we can act accordingly.
And so now going into the other realm, right? Because I wear two hats, right? It's consumer protection, but worker protection. And out of those 9 licenses, there are so many different ways that our workers need to be protected. And so for you, sorry, I had written them down. Give me 2 seconds. Okay. When you mentioned initially about your outreach and the training that you're doing, do you have any data set on that? How many organizations you've sat with? What's been the follow-ups? And how can we actually either target more of those communities, or are we looking and missing out on others? Is there a way that you can share that information with us?
We can get you that information. I don't have it on me right now.
With that training, do you also offer worker protection specifically for cannabis workers when you're talking to them?
So currently, are you talking about, well, some of the training that we are looking to do in terms of the retail licenses, for example, and that's just a lot of what people are discussing in New York City, because that's the first thing that's probably coming here. You know, we are actively looking to train the trainer model, because we want OCM with their limited resources to explain to us, for example, how the technical assistance part of the application, you know, there are people out there that we hear are offering very high amounts of money for their services to fill out an application, for example, which doesn't even exist yet, right? So those are the types of technical assistance that we're trying to get ahead of. Once those applications are finalized in the coming weeks, we want to take that, go out to all of our community-based partners and to train them, so that then they can train the people who come to them who seek assistance, so that those people don't have to pay some exorbitant fee to do something that we can help them do for at no cost. So there's that part of it. In terms of worker protection, I don't know if we have Executive Director from DCWP, Stephen Etanani, here, and if you want to speak to it.
Yeah, sure. Hi, Chair.
Just before you answer, you have to be sworn in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Would you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before these committees, and to respond honestly to council member questions?
I do.
Thank you.
So thank you for the question, Chair, and good to see you again.
Great to see you.
So you brought up a couple of great points, I think, in terms of worker protections. And as the commissioner was alluding to, I think in their function as a lead in cannabis, they're also a coordinating agency and leveraging a lot of expertise, including DCWPs in the space of consumer and worker protection, of course. There are applicable municipal workplace laws that would apply to those that are getting involved in this industry, including the paid safe and sick leave law. So that's something that once, as we're ramping up operations, as the commissioner alluded to, they just put up a posting for a founding director for this office. We're going to be actively engaging with with SBS to ensure that we're doing effective outreach. As our commissioner always mentions, our constituency is all New Yorkers. We want to make sure that we're in all the community districts and working closely with your constituents in particular to ensure that they know what rights apply to them, regardless of what industry they're working in. Of course, in this case, the cannabis industry would be a target for us.
Thank you. And I wanted to know, do you know how workers are being treated or paid in this unregulated market right now?
I don't have that data. I think that it's certainly something that we can look into. We have, I know enforcement has been discussed a little bit at this hearing. I think, what we have been, our visibility on a lot of the unregulated industry, unfortunately, is very limited. We don't have the ability to enforce against marijuana sales at our agency. However, in the cases of different, depending on what folks are seeing on the ground, whether it's a existing brick and mortar that may be licensed by our agency or not, there is an ability for us to perhaps visit that that business and conduct enforcement as pursuant to our existing laws. So we'll look into whatever data we can kind of find out about this, but it's very limited given our purview.
We've been hearing from advocates that a lot of the workers currently are being severely underpaid or paid even in product. So what do we have available to offer those workers, and who do they turn to? Who can they turn to right now as this transition period is happening?
Yeah, I think these are discussions that, again, in coordination with SBS, that we would want to have with the Office of Cannabis Management to get a feel for this emerging industry. As I said, we have a very limited viewpoint as to what is going on here. This isn't our bread and butter of our work, and this is an emerging field. So getting to know the different contours of how folks are being compensated would certainly inform any future regulations and certainly inform outreach and engagement in the community.
And while I have you, I'm going to ask you on consumer stuff now. Going forward, what kind of protections are we considering for our consumers, and what is the administration thinking about when it comes to that? And I heard about the public education campaign. That's one piece, but what's the follow-up, and what have conversations been like?
Sure. So for us, and in terms of consumer awareness, there's a lot of crossover in the public health sector. I think we're going to be really leaning on our public health officials at the health department to speak to, as the commissioner mentioned, the potential effects of mixing marijuana with alcohol and the potency and labeling of these products. I think all of that are things that will be kind of a supplementary agency in terms of getting the word out, but really deferring to those that are following the science more closely than and are really have that expertise rather.
You had mentioned earlier that you have a limited viewpoint. Why is that? Who has failed to include you, or are you suffering from the same situation that me and my council members have, where we've not been just reached out to? Yeah,
I think the limited viewpoint that I'm alluding to comes from a couple of places. First and foremost is that the state law prohibits, our enforcement. It's modeled after the state liquor law, as the commissioner had mentioned. So there's some preemption and restrictions there that speaks to some limited, our limited viewpoint there. Obviously, as the commissioner mentioned, there are ongoing regulations that are going to further define the contours and the realities on the ground in New York City as it relates to this law. That's also informing the limited viewpoint. And just in terms of how complaints are filtered to us, I think, and we're not receiving complaints related to marijuana. I think that's generally the right position. We don't have the expertise in that field. We don't have public health expertise in our agency. I think where we're able to provide added value is leveraging our constituent services, leveraging our connections both in the worker fields as well as with consumer advocates and organizations, as well as obviously with your all's offices, to ensure that we're penetrating communities and kind of amplifying the work that, and expertise of others, either on this dais or at the health department.
And I hear you. And I hear that the administration's doing a great job in including so many different agencies, but that's just the whole point. Wouldn't it be easier or better if there was one dedicated agency within New York City to help that? And where we're looking at a $3 billion business coming in, wouldn't it just be best to have a separate agency for it at this moment?
Councilmember, I think you're correct that it's good to be able to centralize the information, and that's what's happening with our dedicated team. That's the founding director that's going to get hired very shortly, along with the dedicated staff and team that will be housed at SBS. We will play that coordinating role that you're seeking.
Thank you so much. Just really quickly on the unlicensed stores that are selling cannabis products, I wanted to know, and I think we've already kind of alluded to this or not, but I just want to state, do we think stricter fines or any revocation of other permits of these businesses, like revocation of tobacco or alcohol, if they're selling unlicensed, would serve as a deterrent for these folks? Or something that the city could do around civil enforcement?
I apologize for having to hark back, but it really is waiting for the state to come up with their enforcement rules, because they want to veer away from the criminalization of it.
I know, but they're actually illegally, right, selling. So for me, it's kind of like, what are the penalties that we are going to incur to make sure these people do not do that, while also, I mean, there isn't a risk factor of their current business being at risk, while others are waiting their turn, for poor use of better words, and trying to go through the correct procedure. Like, the city can serve as a deterrent. And I guess a follow-up to that is, we have the 50, I'm forgetting the term for them now, but the folks that are already getting cease and desist letters. Is there any other log or data? Are we working with the precincts who are getting all the calls, or making the responses and doing the raids of some of these, to know, pardon, where they are, and how do we relay that data back to the states to make sure, if we don't do anything in the meantime and to serve as a deterrent, that their applications of licenses or permits are actually put to the ends of the line, since they're the bad actors that aren't following the rules?
So I think in terms of the bad actor comment you mentioned, I think that's specifically what the state has been emphasizing, that if you believe that selling illegally now, just having a store up and running earlier is going to help you get a license, you're wrong. And that's what the cease and desist letters are also, I think, making clear, that they're not operating legally at this time and they need to stop. So I think that the strategy is gearing towards the civil side of things, of potential seizure of the products, monetary fines, but I don't think that's been finalized yet. So once that is, I think really then we can coordinate what the most effective response will be to deter that. I think what we can do most now is, again, educate, as Commissioner Sherman said, including the smoke shops, that you need to be part of the regulated market. There's dangers with dealing with unregulated products. There's going to be consequences if you want to get a license, but that the potential to be part of the regulated market can be very lucrative. And we're trying to get that education out in the various ways we had discussed earlier.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm trying to just continue thinking of ways to make sure that folks in the community feel comfortable with these spaces. Cannabis, if we approach it correctly, can be utilized by many people from many age ranges and from a lot of different backgrounds, as we've seen already that is the case. So I just want to make sure that if there are folks out there that are going to deter, my seniors who need it for their arthritis, that we're actually making sure that they're not first up in line for things when there are folks that are trying to actually serve our communities, both for adult use and medicinally. One question for me, and then we'll move on to the members. To your knowledge, what conversations have taken place to date around the zoning changes that may be considered to aid the rollout of the cannabis industry in New York City, specifically around ensuring that cannabis businesses are not further limited in their ability to locate themselves, and additionally around hours of operation? I know that was something similar was previously answered, but just want to clarify.
Yeah, I think currently it's my understanding that the state is looking to be able to license anywhere that a retail store can be licensed. So I believe it's Group U6 in the zoning. But again, it hasn't been finalized. I think once they finalize it, we'll have a better understanding. We are talking with DCP very closely and just making them aware of the various zoning questions that can come up. And once the state finalizes exactly where it can be used, but retail use space is something that I think the state is focused on, similar to where liquor establishments can be.
Sure. But doesn't that also include some of the prohibiting areas, like around schools, around houses of worship? Are there also regulatory measures that say folks can't be, two locations can't be X amount of feet by one another or by a liquor store, et cetera?
I believe the state also has a 200-foot limitation, but
Yeah.
you want to speak on this?
Yeah, we are waiting for the final regulations, obviously, but obviously there are things that we can do in advance while we wait for those. One of those is talking to other states to understand what zoning questions have come up in those markets. Compiling a list, but we are actually currently working on this specifically to identify what are the questions and how can we help clarify the process to understand, okay, where can you actually locate a business? What are all the rules? Because it is difficult to navigate if you're not familiar with zoning laws, et cetera. So we are in active conversations with DOB and DCP to figure out how to best make that process as clear as possible for entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I'll now, with second round, and if any other colleagues would like to ask questions, please either use the raise hand function or let us know here in the front. Councilmember Williams?
Thank you. I now have a question for the Department of Consumer Affairs, since I know that you're here. So I feel like there's already a capacity issue with enforcing business regulations, consumer affairs regulations. And so with the cannabis industry, which of course has been stated many times, is gonna be a boom, and we already have so many regulatory issues now, I'm just wondering, and there's a fly in my face, how you plan to adjust for that capacity?
Yeah. So thanks for the question. I want to be very clear. DCWP is not empowered to enforce against marijuana regulations. What I was referring to before in terms of the discussion of enforcement that council members were raising is that there are instances where there is some level of crossover where either a licensee may be there may be allegations that a licensee may be involved in marijuana sales, or there's a vendor, for example, where we house the Office of Street Vendor Enforcement, where there may be some regulations that we may be able to enforce. But in terms of marijuana-specific regulations, we would not be issuing those and are not empowered to do so.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. The other question that I had is, what other divisions within EDC are dealing with cannabis? Because you're part of the Strategic Investments Group, so.
Correct. So as I mentioned, we're focused on capital access in real estate. So we have teams on our asset management, considering feasibility in terms of use, as well as I mentioned, we have a land use team that's thinking specifically about some of these zoning questions and how we can learn from other states to make this process as easy to navigate as possible.
So just those three divisions: strategic investments, asset management, and land use. There's no other.
There are other groups as well, but I would say those are the main ones right now.
Okay. And then, Commissioner, back to what you were saying about the office that you're creating, that would be a cross-coordinating entity. So SBS doesn't really have oversight power over other agencies, right?
We don't have oversight power over other agencies. Yes, that's correct.
Like, for instance, I know you administer like the MWBE program, but oftentimes agencies are not necessarily in full compliance. And like, so using that as an example, what can SBS do to hold agencies accountable around MWBE compliance, as an example?
Around cannabis MWB?
No, just in general.
Well, I think, I don't know if it's correct necessarily to just view SBS in a silo like that, because I think SBS is responsible for, first of all, certifying all the MWBs in the city. We're also responsible for technical assistance, providing technical assistance to get government contract opportunities in front of MWBs. But I think a lot of it is also making sure that we keep good data and to share that data. And then I think the administration as a whole relies on that data to work together to achieve the goals. I don't know if it's an enforcement per se issue, but rather that it's really a goal-setting issue that we're pushing. And I know that all the agencies in the administration we've been talking to are all committed to achieving, for example, MWBE goals.
Right, and I'm asking that because I personally do feel like SBS should have a little bit more teeth, right? Because that'll allow SBS to hold agencies accountable for compliance around the MWBE program. And so using that as an example and now looking at your role around cannabis, I would say my concern is, you know, outside of like essentially almost being, I don't even want to say project manager, but just like a liaison between agencies, like what real authority will SBS have to really compel numerous city agencies to do what they need to do around cannabis that would meet a lot of the goals that my colleagues have shared today?
So I think the key point here is that SBS with our dedicated team will be coordinating, but we're not enforcing anything. I don't think we need to necessarily enforce anything in this particular situation. I think it's really kind of making sure we are playing the right role of convening everybody, making sure information is being shared. If there's ever anything that needs to get done that SBS is pushing for that doesn't get done, I mean, I think just the administration has a structure that's in place. For example, I report to the deputy mayor for economic development and economic and workforce development. And I think the administration as a whole works very closely together so that it's not SBS trying to do this or not. It's really the administration with our shared goals and values trying to push this forward. And if making sure that equity is at the heart of this particular campaign and this emerging industry, I think everybody in our city administration is totally aligned with that.
I do appreciate your optimistic view of all of the city agencies, and I do know that the mayor is committed to this, so I agree. I think there is a legitimate interest from the mayor's office to make sure that New York City does what it can to support and do this right. However, I am not that optimistic, and I don't think that all city agencies share in the same goals. And so I would say just in closing that I am just concerned that SBS doesn't really have the authority and oversight powers that I feel that they need to truly do what is necessary. So I just want to say that because it's, like you said, you don't really have that role per se. You would have to cross-coordinate or speak to a deputy mayor or something like that. I don't know. I just don't feel that you have the powers you need to have to like make sure this is done right.
But just to be clear, I think when I said we have the deputy mayor, it's not, I think everything that we're doing in terms of leading outreach and education is something that our agency just does very well and has done very well historically. And the coordination elements of it in terms of working with MOCJA, EDC, and all the other agencies we talked about, MOE, it's already happening and it's already happened. So that's why I'm not so much being as optimistic as I am just kind of relaying to you how my experience has been in the past month and a half, 2 months since we've really been put in charge of this convening effort. But it's a coordinating effort. But once we get the dedicated team, I think you'll see it step up to another level as soon as we are able to identify and get the team in place. We're then being more optimistic about how everything will go with the administration working together as one.
I look forward to working with you on it.
Thank you.
Because I think I slightly disagree. Because I think SBS should do what SBS is good at, and there should be a true coordinating entity that is working across agencies to make sure those agencies are doing what they are good at. So that's just my humble opinion, but thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Brewer?
Thank you. Very quickly on the zoning issue, something that I know a lot about. The community boards are bringing to my attention, and we know this, that if you are a restaurant, and Jeff Garcia here knows, you need to get an SLA license. If you are a liquor store, you do not. You have other permits you need, but you don't. So the community boards are concerned that the cannabis brick and mortar could locate as the liquor stores do, not the restaurants. But I hate to say it, nearest where people might, right next to NYCHA, for lack of a better word, right next to places where people will be accustomed to going and where the community would like to have the cannabis stores spread out more equally. And I say this because about 4 or 5 community boards have brought this to my attention. So the zoning that you're talking about is not relevant because a C6 can be any residential strip or any commercial strip, even near a residential. Something to think about. The liquor stores go where sometimes it's very challenging for the community. They put up their plastic. It's not a pleasant experience. So people are worried about that. I don't know how you deal with it. I don't think the state understands that because that's not something they deal with in other parts of the state. But I want you to be aware of it as you're talking to Dan Garodnick and others about the zoning issues. Now maybe look now to see if some unregulated smoke shops are doing that already. I don't know. I know where the trucks are, and they are doing that. So I just bring this to your attention. Think about the location so that it isn't impacting a community in ways that are not appropriate. And the community boards would like, I'm not saying you're going to do it, they would like to have more say about the liquor stores, and they would like to have more say about any retail for cannabis. So be aware of that. The way it works with liquor now, of course, for a restaurant is if you're near a church or faith base, you have to get their permission. That's a whole drama that I don't need to get into, not to mention a school. But for the liquor stores, they can go anywhere. Something to think about. Thank you.
Well, actually, can I just, the liquor stores too, within 200 feet of a school or a church would not be able to get licensed statutorily, as well as restaurants. You cannot even get permission from the church or the school. So it's just, that's.
Oh, yes, you can. You can go to the assembly and get an override. Yep.
Wow, I've never seen. But to your point about zoning, we are definitely looking into all the issues. And what I meant before was group use 6, not C6. C6 being a commercial zone, but group use is more of a C of O, I guess, with DOB. But all those issues are being looked at, and we're coordinating with DOB, DCP,
and keep the community boards up to date would be the other suggestion.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
And the biggest challenge we have is that the statute that the state wrote is it statutorily preempts the city from regulating a lot of the dispensaries, for example. So we do have limits in that way.
Okay, thank you.
I thought I was done with my questioning, but I'm sorry, I'm not. I understand we are at the initial stages of the establishment of this new industry, and SBS is currently developing resources to help social and economic equity applicants. Thinking more of a long term, what do you think SBS's role will be 5 years from now? For example, to ensure these businesses can survive and succeed as they will face competition from well-funded venture-backed cannabis corporations coming in.
So I think that is where we have learned from the lessons of other states, is that when you don't start very deliberately with close interagency collaboration between, close cooperation between the state and local cities and municipalities, I think that's where you've seen a lot of those cases that you've talked about where much larger corporations have come in when local, smaller entities have failed and filled up the vacuum, so to say. In New York, that's what we're trying to address by initially the state has the card licenses to give them the first head start, and those are the licenses that, again, have those two particular requirements of having had a marijuana conviction in the state of New York or a close family member, as I outlined before, and then having some business experience. That is something that is part of addressing how we can get the people who are most impacted by the war on drugs to have the most opportunity to succeed here and not create that vacuum that has happened in other states. And then in terms of the general licensing that will come out thereafter, the goal of the 50% SEA applicants, I think that's where the state has been doing extensive outreach with the city, partnering very closely together. As I'd mentioned, been out in the community extensively as well, creating sharing of lists between the state and the city on who we've outreached so that we can either amplify in a particular community or branch out so that we don't duplicate our efforts. So those are all things that are designed to try to make sure that those smaller justice involved in particular, or SEA qualifying applicants, have the best chance to succeed, and that the bigger operators then can't just swoop in and fill up a vacuum like they've done in other states.
And I think, going to my next question, I think the main question is, what capacity will you have in your agency to execute on the business assistant needs of our communities, right? What is the budget looking like? And I think, how many people will you reach out to with this budget?
So we have $4.8 million approximately coming in. We are incorporating the dedicated team into our general outreach team as well. And so we are confident that because the outreach team that we have has the relationships, and then all of our sister agencies have their relationships, that it's really a citywide outreach program. It's not just SBS. And that's why these weekly or multi, we have very frequent calls throughout the week, interagency-wise, to discuss outreach constantly. And so we're confident that the money that's been allocated with the dedicated team that will be added on shortly, we're going to be able to reach the people that we're trying to reach.
Thank you. And then I just want to go to what other states are, what's happening in other states. We're looking at a reality of 37,000 people applying for 56 licenses in Connecticut for a period that just ended last week. And so if we're saying that SBS is going to help, and it's going to help for free, we run into a situation where it's like folks waiting up to like 6 months to get help. And we don't want that to happen, because we find that to be unacceptable, because they are already working from a standpoint that it's not as beneficial as these out-of-staters. So how do we make sure that they're on top? How do we prioritize them?
I think that we understand at SBS that if there's a whole flood of applications that come in, that we too have some limited resources. But again, as a city, I think we're leveraging all of our resources together. One of the most important things we also recognize is we have to have a very robust train-the-trainer model. And so that means that we are not only the ones actually helping with the technical assistance, but we go out into the community with our community-based partners to train them on how to help others. So we were up in the Bronx Borough President's Cannabis Forum, and I'd met with the Bronx Defenders and the Bronx Community Partnership organizations, for example, there. And that's the model that they had talked about, but that's something that we had already envisioned doing and are doing, is once these applications are finalized by the state, we're able to then go into all the different communities and actually explain to the local partners how to help their residents and their community members. And so that's how I think we address the multiplying effect of training the trainer and not just trying to do everything in-house ourselves.
Is this 4.8 million enough?
We believe that the money that's coming in addition to the outreach team we already have in place to market all SBS services with the resources that we are pulling together with all of our sister agencies, including EDC, we believe it's enough to achieve the goals that we're trying to achieve along with the state.
Thank you so much to my colleague, Chair Velasquez, and colleagues in government for asking all the great testimony, and thank you to SBS. We have now concluded your testimony, and we will go, I'll swing it back over to Alex, our moderator, for next steps. Not really a swing, but.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, members of the administration. We'll now turn to the public portion of the hearing. For in-person panelists, please come up to the dais once your name has been called. And for virtual panelists, we will be calling on individuals one by one to testify. We will be limiting public testimony today to 3 minutes each, so please begin once the sergeant has started the timer.
I'm sorry, one interjection. So as we leave, but we have staff staying just to let you know, and they'll be here to take all the notes, and all the things we owe you, we'll get to you as soon as possible. But thank you so much for today.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
During this session, council members who have questions for a particular panelist, please raise your hands. And council members who are here virtually, please use the Zoom raise hand function. For virtual panelists, once your name is called, a member of our staff will unmute you, and the Sergeant at Arms will set the timer to give you the go-ahead to begin. Please wait for the Sergeant to announce that you may begin before delivering your testimony. I'll now turn it back to the chair to announce the panelists.
So as I call your name up, please, as instructed, come to the dais. We'll be calling up Max Bookman, Alex Sparopoulos, and Jeffrey Garcia. Oh, and Katie Shane. Who? Oh, Max, we're coming to you virtually.
Am I unmuted?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Oh, am I free to begin?
You may begin.
Yes, you can begin.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairs. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Commissioner Kim. My name is Max Bookman. I'm an attorney and partner at the law firm Pazetsky and Bookman. We are counsel to the New York City Hospitality Alliance, our city's hospitality industry trade association, and I'm pleased to testify on the Alliance's behalf today. Most of our members are small businesses. They're New Yorkers, and many are interested in entering the adult use cannabis industry. I've had many conversations with Alliance members on this subject, and many of them qualify as social and economic equity applicants. I had some prepared remarks, which I'm going to now submit in writing, but in hearing the really great back and forth today and a lot of the commentary, which I've been paying close attention to, I'm just going to put my prepared remarks aside and actually address some of the things that were discussed, which I hope will be helpful. Chair Velasquez, on the on-site consumption lounges, we want existing food and beverage establishments to be able to enter the cannabis market. Mom and pop eateries in the communities, local businesses that have been there for a long time who don't necessarily want to open a dispensary, but still want to take the benefits of legal adult use cannabis and qualify qualify as social and economic equity applicants. We were against the portion of the state law that said you can't have a liquor license and also have an on-site consumption lounge license. We think that was a bad idea. The idea of that mixing alcohol and cannabis as an issue is really not an issue. The whole point of the cannabis law is a recognition that people consume cannabis, whether it's legal or not. People also consume alcohol. Sometimes they consume it together. Sometimes someone's consuming one and the other person is consuming another. So to say that we don't like that people do this, so we're just going to go ahead and leave it unregulated, is the same flawed mindset that helped support the marijuana and alcohol prohibitions to begin with. So, New York City being the culinary capital of the world, we think our small businesses can easily handle both marijuana and alcohol in safe and accountable ways. Frankly, we're not sure how the on-site consumption lounges are going to work without alcohol. So please, speak with the administration, speak with Liz Kruger. We're here to support changes in the state law that allow it. Council members Brewer and Salamanca, I don't know if they're still here, but on enforcement, it is a Wild West, and we hear that from our members as well. The idea of a donation loophole is a joke. It's not a realistic reading of the statute. It would be an exception that swallows the rule, and nobody should really give that any credit. And the illicit market and the lack of enforcement, and this is to a point that you also made, Chair Velasquez, it's already having a demoralizing effect on potential applicants. I'm hearing a lot of cynicism out there about these illicit vendors operating with impunity, especially amongst the social and economic equity applicants who are our members, because they don't want to put in all of the time and the effort to get licensed just to get undermined by unregulated businesses that are operating with impunity. So what can we do, Chair Velasquez? I mean, I agree with Commissioner Kim that we need to hear from the state, but in the meantime, let's make a list. Department of Consumer and Worker Protection, they know how to do undercover buys. They can go out into the communities. They could work with council members. They could find these businesses that are already operating so that the state can hit the ground running with a list from the city once the state gets its act together. I'll submit our other ideas about the office and the bills, which we strongly support, in my written testimony. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and thank you for your leadership on this extremely important topic. We're here to work with you in any way that we can.
Thank you so much for your testimony. We'll now be going to Alex Baropoulos. Sorry if I mispronounced that.
Chair Frias, Chair Velasquez, and members of the council, thank you for the opportunity to testify as the council considers the rollout of the cannabis industry here in New York City and two bills that would help establish and support the cannabis business ecosystem. My name is Alex Baropoulos, and I'm a member of Weedmaps Public Affairs team. For over a decade, Weedmaps has been a catalyst and driving force in the creation and implementation of sound legislative, regulatory, and public policy efforts in the legal cannabis space across the United States, as well as Canada and parts of Europe. Weedmaps has been and continues to be committed to working with lawmakers, regulators, industry participants, and trade groups to promote comprehensive cannabis policy solutions. There are many challenges in starting a new cannabis marketplace, and we applaud the Council for taking proactive measures to set a strong foundation for the industry. We support both Intro 285, which would establish an Office of Cannabis Business Services, and Intro 504, which would create a cannabis business directory. Both bills under consideration today would establish a dedicated government office to drive forward New York City's cannabis industry goals and provide crucial resources to aspiring entrepreneurs and consumers. In addition to the measures currently under consideration, there are several other components of the cannabis industry's rollout that stand to benefit from the Council's input, namely delivery and zoning. The successful implementation of cannabis delivery will be critical to ensuring that the city's cannabis economy thrives from its inception. According to a recent survey, convenience is one of the top considerations for cannabis consumers, with 67% of consumers identifying it as vital. In other jurisdictions, cannabis deliveries are typically conducted via cars, an option that is impractical in many parts of the 5 boroughs. The current statute and regulations issued thus far by the Office of Cannabis Management do not address whether cannabis deliveries in New York will be permitted via other transportation methods such as bikes, scooters, or other forms of micromobility. Enabling these options for cannabis deliveries would not only better serve consumers and businesses by providing a more convenient mode of delivery, but would also be more environmentally friendly. Allowing these options would help ensure New York City meets consumer demand and help make the city a leader in this space. With respect to zoning, it is critical that regulations do not create unintended de facto bans on cannabis retail sales. The current statute prohibits the locating of retail dispensaries and on-site consumption licenses within 500 feet from schools or within 200 feet from houses of worship. Given New York City's density, this will limit where retail dispensaries and on-site consumption areas can operate. The council should consider passing zoning regulations that do not further restrict the potential locations of these cannabis businesses. Finally, New York City has worked hard to earn its reputation as a city that never sleeps, largely due to its unrivaled and unparalleled nightlife. Cannabis on-site consumption locations and retail dispensaries should be permitted to operate during the same hours as other nightlife venues in order to integrate into this important part of the city's culture. As the council proceeds with this legislation and additional efforts to assist the rollout of the cannabis industry, Weedmaps looks forward to working with you to help ensure that New York City establishes itself as an equitable and thriving cannabis ecosystem. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and I pronounced it perfectly for the record. Next up is Jeffrey Garcia.
Can you hear me? Okay, yeah. Good afternoon, Chairwoman Velasquez, Chairwoman Farias, and other council members. Thank you for having us. My name is Jeffrey Garcia. I'm the co-founder of the Latino Cannabis Association. The Latino Cannabis Association Advocacy, Inc. is a trade association incorporated under the laws of the state of New York as a corporation with the civic purpose of social welfare. Our membership is comprised of highly competitive licensed applicants for the new adult use cannabis industry in New York, a diverse membership representing a cross-section of established entrepreneurs with the Latino community and legacy operators, all spanning economic, social, and generational divides. Our mission is to help realize the vision of the New York social equity policy by supporting the diverse cohort of new cannabis entrepreneurs and investors. To that end, we will be coalescing around support for applicants who meet New York social equity and economic criteria, either having been impacted by failed drug policy or as people of color through our partnerships with other nonprofit organizations and government agencies. We thank the New York City Council for the tireless work on behalf of our residents and for the opportunity to speak with you today about the proposed Intro 285, which establishes an Office of Cannabis Business Services, and Intro 504 in relation to Cannabis Business Directory. As a trade association, we're particularly excited about the creation of a Cannabis Business Directory to help empower social equity participants in this new industry through the widespread availability of information for consumers. The business of cannabis is highly capital intensive and know-how intensive. Thus, to the extent that the city establishes support mechanisms to spur economic growth through resources and information, we believe it is a worthwhile endeavor. The Latino Cannabis Association also stands with New York City Council in its efforts to create an Office of Cannabis Business Services that will prioritize and effectively implementation of the new industry in New York City. Many of our members are established business owners with experience in regulated industries such as restaurants, supermarkets, and professional trades, and gross revenues of over $200 million. We understand the importance of coordination when it comes to economic development and regulatory actions, and we have worked with many of you to ensure we continue to build up our communities within the context of business growth, and we agree that it is important to have one point of contact for the administration to coalesce around efforts to make this industry successful. Especially, we believe that a locally based approach is important in cannabis in order to assist the vast majority of individuals whose lives have been destroyed by cannabis prohibition, but do not have business experience. This is an integral part of fulfilling the mission and the intent of this new regulatory industry. We support efforts to bring everyone along and the road of success. Individuals with criminal records are substantially less likely to have ownership in business and the general population. In fact, 1 in 3 Americans have a criminal record, but less than 4% of all small business owners have a criminal record. And it is not hard to understand why one considers the many collateral consequences and societal stigma that come with a criminal conviction. Thus, special attention must be paid to ensure the equity for individuals who are justice involved along the entire process. Housing this Office of Cannabis Business Services and its function under an already existing infrastructure, Department of Small Business Services, is an effective avenue to set equity goals for the industry, streamline assistance, and achieve success, not just for licensees and applicants to the New York State Office of Cannabis Management, but also for thousands of ancillary businesses and consumers who will benefit from the industry. Thank you for your efforts and have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you so much. And next up is Katie Shane.
Good afternoon. My name is Katie Shane. I'm the Deputy Political Director at Local 338, RWDSU, UFCW. Thank you, Chairpersons Marjorie Velasquez and Amanda Farias, as well as Councilmember Kevin Riley. Local 338, RWDSU, UFCW represents over 13,000 working people across New York, including 80% of New York's current cannabis workers. We support the city and state's commitment to fostering a cannabis industry that not only addresses historic injustices, but aims to provide sustaining long-term career opportunities, especially to those most impacted communities. The creation of Office of Cannabis Services would be a great addition to that work. In addition to providing guidance and assistance to economic and social equity applicants, we recommend creating a city-based program for workforce development. We've seen firsthand the difference a union cannabis career can make in someone's life. Union cannabis workers across New York City and state make good, life-sustaining wages, receive benefits including health care at no cost to them or their families, and have security knowing they are working in a safe, regulated workplace. We believe everyone should have access to good union jobs. New York's cannabis industry provides a unique opportunity to train and hire those most affected by prohibition. The Cannabis Workforce Initiative, CWI, a joint project of the Workforce Development Institute and Cornell School of Industrial Labor Relations, is currently developing a program that will equip workers with knowledge on cannabis science and history, in addition to practical hands-on skills necessary to be successful in this industry. A partnership with CWI or any other educational programs available through CUNY or SUNY would create a pathway for New Yorkers to access quality jobs. After completion of these programs, we recommend that the Office of Cannabis Business Services assist in job placement through the creation of a registry of available job openings. The oversight responsibility of the Office of Cannabis Business Services, as stipulated in the current bill language, would make sure that the city is meeting the goals set for social equity ownership, as well as for those working in the industry. Workers cannot be left behind. The city would also be able to hold cannabis businesses accountable, ensuring that jobs in the industry are available to those most impacted by prohibition. In that vein, we urge that the annual/biannual report also include data on workforce, including breakdowns of race, gender, justice involvement, and local hiring, as well as data on wages and benefits available to workers in the industry. Thank you so much for your time and consideration.
Thank you so much for each of your public testimony. You can leave the dais whenever you'd like or stay with us the whole time. We're now going to move to testimony that is virtual, so please be mindful for those folks online of the unmute function. First up will be Jesse Aman and then Pilar de Jesus, followed by Emily Marie Ramos. Jesse?
Starting time.
Good afternoon, Chairpersons Farias and Velasquez and members of the committees. My name is Sana Wright, and I am the External Affairs Manager at the Times Square Alliance. I stand before you today on behalf of Tom Harris, President of the Times Square Alliance, to discuss the recreational cannabis regulatory and licensing process. The Alliance supports the establishment of an Office of Cannabis Business Services. Legalization of cannabis without an immediate plan to regulate and monitor the sale, distribution, safety, and use of cannabis was a failure of government, and one that has led to crime and disorder on the streets of Times Square and throughout our city. A safe and well-regulated cannabis market is fully achievable, and I am encouraged that the City Council is taking steps to ensure that it happens. On any given day, there are dozens of trucks, vendor carts, and cars selling cannabis on the streets of Times Square. They are unlicensed and park illegally. Additionally, there are over a dozen individuals selling from tables or their persons. The NYPD has been addressing the trucks by issuing parking summonses, and the individuals have been treated as illegal vendors. We need a regulatory scheme that prohibits the sale of cannabis on our streets. There can be no gray area. The unregulated sale of cannabis on our streets and sidewalks is dangerous. Randomly placed tables congest the sidewalk and impede pedestrian flow. Ingestible products sold by these vendors lack any Department of Health certification, and their ingredients and potency are unknown. Beyond these issues, however, unregulated street sales of cannabis have led to violent altercations. On March 1st, members of the NYPD arrested an individual on 7th Avenue in possession of a fully loaded ghost gun. The person was selling cannabis in the area. On June 15th, a dispute between rival sellers on 42nd Street resulted in a slashing. Visitors and New Yorkers have returned to Times Square at levels unseen since before the pandemic, and we have a responsibility to keep them safe. Prohibitions on street dealing of cannabis will go a long way to reduce disorder and restore a sense of safety on our streets. We therefore ask that commercial cannabis activity be limited to brick and mortar establishments and prohibited from trucks, carts, and the streets of New York City. Additionally, the smoking of cannabis is a top complaint from visitors to Times Square. In the past, the council has developed time, place, and manner restrictions for cigarette smoking, including the prohibition of smoking in parks, plazas, and at beaches, and we urge similar restrictions for the smoking of cannabis use in public. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next up, we'll be hearing from Pilar de Jesus.
Starting time.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Pilar de Jesus. I wear many hats. I am an aunt, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm the vice president of East Harlem Preservation, and I'm also a senior advocacy coordinator with Take Root Justice. But mainly, I am a Latina who is the survivor of a lot of the outdated racist policies, both on the city, the state, and on the country level. And I first wanted, and forgive me, I may go over just a few minutes because there was so much that was said, the word enforcement, the wild, wild west. A lot of words for me personally who has been criminalized in many different ways because I'm Latina, because, I'm a little loud, in my community, I'm not problema. Pero one thing I want to remind the council, and I also want to highly recommend, and I say this, since we're always talking about education, and as a person who, with my business, I do a lot of community education events too on the side. I want to encourage folks to read It's Just a Plant by Ricardo Cortez. And it's a children's story about marijuana. You'll get to learn about Farmer Bob, and this young lady, Jackie, who discovers, her parents were smoking this thing that smelled a little funky. And you'll get to understand that it's just a plant. Marijuana is a plant, and it makes me sad. I hear all these words, enforcement, and all these regulations, and I encourage many of the council and leaders to start learning and even taking back to your own culture and your history of your ancestors. This is medicine. We don't treat tomatoes like this. We don't treat coffee like this. We are talking about medicine, and it always has been medicine. What happened was some racist white people from here in America made it into this something similar, unfortunately, like how Jesse was talking. Oh, it's become more violent. I don't think you see more violence in this city because of marijuana. I think the violence you're seeing is because there's more homeless people. There is a mental health crisis going on right now. And then now the RGB, the Rent Guidelines Board, just voted for more increase. And then you got evictions at hundreds of thousands in the level. So I don't think marijuana, if you see more people buying marijuana, it's because they're medicating themselves. People medicate themselves. And I'm also a little sad, Gail, if you're still here, M&M's is a chocolate, and I understand that the big corporation uses cartoons to market to kids, and I don't agree that cannabis should have cartoons to market to kids, but it's chocolate, and if you understand the symphony between chocolate and cannabis, then you understand that could be very healing for many people, especially I talk to a lot of seniors who love edibles, and maybe they like M&Ms, maybe they don't like M&Ms, maybe they like popcorn, and maybe they like
Time expired.
popcorn. And I'm gonna end on one or two more notes, just two more notes, because as a person who also was one of the chair of the Community Reinvestment Working Group of the Start Smart Coalition, which is the coalition that helped shape the MRTA, I don't like the word enforcement. It's very triggering. We don't need to create more barriers for the folks who have already had barriers from getting higher education, getting housing, getting job placement. and adding fees to on top of barriers that currently exist. Like I mentioned, we have a housing crisis, and it's in my opinion that the new rent increase is going to cause a public health crisis, and a lot of that housing crisis is affecting our social equity applicants. So I also want to encourage that there's money to be put to a housing fund as soon as possible. And I also speak to that 200 million is not enough, but again, that's something we can work out with the state. I have so much more points to talk to, but I want to respect the time. It's just a plan, and without the plants, we do not have a planet. So let's stop trying to lock up the plant now and now create more barriers for folks who I believe are probably in the street now trying to make money to pay their rent, because people are choosing between food and rent, and that's a real thing. And as much of us, including myself, want to have our own brick and mortar, the reality is we need capital. And we don't have it because we're barely able to pay for our rent. And I will end there because I think it's important for you guys to hear that. And I would highly recommend and nominate myself. I think Mr. Kim said we need a messenger. I would love to be that messenger because, like I said, the people who have been affected are the leaders and the experts. And we're also being left out. And one more final point. Just look at
Gotta wrap up your time.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, but
No. Listen, I'm sorry to have to cut you off because we're here to time. You're 100% right. A lot of us agree. Those that were here asking questions and are present are because we understand the dynamics that are happening in our community. And I just want to state that the term enforcement that we've been using and the questions around that are solely around the people that are actually going to inhibit those folks in our communities that are not going to get the chance because they are making it more difficult. They're unregulated, they're unlicensed, and they're going to be the examples that folks use to make sure we don't get brick and mortars and we don't get licenses. And that's why we're talking about regulation, and that's why we're talking about enforcement. It's not the enforcement that we've been seeing and the over-policing we've seen in our communities. It's about ensuring that the bad actors that are doing that right now, who are going to stop us from getting those opportunities, we nip that shit in the butt now.
No, I agree.
Like, that's really what it's about.
And I get it.
Sorry, pardon.
We don't want bad weed out there, and I totally agree. And I just think, though, if we want to enforce, I think instead of giving fines, maybe then offer them a program, with SDS
Sure.
to go into the program so that then they can
Absolutely.
learn how to do the business. Instead of them giving fines, give them the chance first, like give them the resources, and then if they continue to do it after giving them all the resources, then maybe consider fines. But I think we want to get away from that, that mindset, and that's what
100%. Thank you so much for your testimony, Pilar. We'll now hear from Emily Marie Ramos.
Starting time.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you so much for holding this hearing today on the state marijuana laws. My name is Emily Marie Ramos Rodriguez. I am a native New Yorker, Boricua, born and raised on the Lower East Side and El Barrio, Spanish Harlem. I'm here to come talk to you folks today as someone who's born and raised in NYCHA, still currently live in NYCHA, and someone who's been directly impacted by marijuana prohibition. My father was raided and arrested in my grandparents' apartment in the Lower East Side in Blue Ridge Houses, which is a NYCHA development. My grandparents were there. My grandparents had guns waved in their face for exactly what Pilar was saying, a plant. And it's really important that we use that framework when we're talking about marijuana, because it is a medicine at the end of the day. And using this context of enforcement and punitive laws and having this punitive system for criminalizing people is the exact framework that caused marijuana to be illegal in the first place. And so I think that it's really important that we really look at marijuana for what it is, an ancestral plant that has been used by Tainos, that has been used by China and folks. It was one of China's 5 ancient medicinal plants. It was used in India in the Holy Festival. It's mentioned in the Torah. And throughout so many different cultures, from ancient times in BC, marijuana has been used as a medicinal plant, and only our communities are the ones who are policed. 86% of the people who've been arrested in the for marijuana prohibition in New York State have been Black and brown, and that's supported by Drug Policy Alliance report and Scott Stringer's report on communities who've been most impacted by marijuana prohibition. And we know from that, most people who've been arrested are people who live in low-income housing like NYCHA developments. But right now, people who live in NYCHA can't legally consume their medicine, and they cannot partake in home grow, leaving people out of the industry. And we already know that there's going to be many barriers to folks who live in NYCHA and folks who've been directly impacted by marijuana prohibition to obtain a license. We know the barriers of capital, of having real estate. Like you mentioned, we've been asking the city to use their vacant properties for many years now to both house homeless people and for commercial real estate. I'm here representing the New York City Network of Worker Cooperatives, and so we've been urging for
Time expired.
And for marijuana co-ops specifically, and so we're asking the city to support us in our transition from the legacy market and equity operators into the legal marijuana industry. We need exclusivity in licensing and moratorium in licensing to ensure that people of color are not competing, and people who've been directly impacted, people who are living in low-income housing are not competing with operators from out of state and even out of the country that are trying to get into the legal market here in New York, because we do have the largest market in the world. We have been talking about examples like in Cambridge, Massachusetts, that has a moratorium in licensing, and work closely with CUNY Law to discuss what legal scrutiny it would take to pass and make sure that those equity provisions are not illegal or have us subject to getting sued, which they aren't, because the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act was created to ensure that people who've been directly impacted get their reparations and prioritization in the industry to repair the harms.
Okay.
I'm also here representing my co-op.
You're over time, so you have about 10 seconds, or you can submit the public testimony.
Thanks. I'm also here representing Jaime Madre and my co-op, the People's Weed Festival, and New York for Social and Economic Equity. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And next up is Wanda Salman.
Starting time.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Wanda Salaman, and I'm the director of Mothers on the Move. I have a prepared statement, so we are going to email you the prepared statement. I've been organizing in the Bronx for 30 years, in the South Bronx and in the North Bronx, and I've seen how the laws on cannabis and marijuana, how it was the original name, have been affecting the people of our community. And I also, for the last 5 years, have been talking to people, seeing where this law was going to take us. And I see how it's going to benefit a lot of people that are not from our community or have more resources than the people in our community. Believe it or not, a lot of people that have been in this business for a long time, the people that are the real experts, been talking to myself and people from my staff, people like Bilal, Hector from Freedom One, about how can they get in the business. And we see that a lot of the regulations are not for the people that have been doing this type of work for years and now are going to be getting taxed by the state and the city, right? So I believe that things should be legal, but I also believe that our system should be fair to our community members, right? We want to create generational wealth, but we are not giving the people the right tools that they need to create that generational wealth. So if we say we want to do all this stuff, one of the proposals that we did a report with Pratt Institute. We want to create a cannabis hub, right? Where people could come in there that are legendary folks that could even teach us how to run their business. how we could help them with a business plan, how we could help them with financing, we could help them find places where they could do their business, and especially in our community, give education, not only to our community folks, but also to city council that needs also more education on some of these laws themselves. And different politicians need some of the education. And like, I'm from Puerto Rico, and in Puerto Rico, the ones that are running cannabis is the medical marijuana, and everybody I see is they have the medical card. But the only ones that are making money is the medical field in Puerto Rico, and I hope this doesn't go that way. That the only people making money is the medical marijuana, which I don't think that this is going to happen here. But I just want to make sure that we are part of the process, not just looking from the just looking in from the outside, and are really being considered to work with the people in our community. So we have a report. I would like to share with Bronx politicians our report and let you know what are the stuff that we're thinking. We are not only thinking about cannabis, we are also thinking about hemp. So hemp concrete is another way for us to get our folks out of poverty, and not everybody have to touch this plant. And you know, I'm not planning to touch the plant. So, but I want to create opportunities for the people in the Bronx. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony, and we look forward to reading your testimony completely and any other reports that you'd like to share with us. With that, and seeing no other public testimony, I'd like to close and say thank you to my colleague and Chair Velasquez and our committee members for joining us here today. Thank you to SBS and EDC for testifying. This hearing for New York City was about setting a foundation and a way for us to see where New York City can go, and where we need to anticipate with the upcoming state rules and regulations. Intro 285 and 504 are our initial steps to find the ways that we can do good by our community members and to keep our communities safe. Today we learned there are many steps that we have to take before December or before those regulations come out, and I look forward to a follow-up hearing post-state regulations, and in the meantime, working to find innovative ways to uplift the legacy community use of municipal partnerships and create good jobs and revenue back into our city and communities. I'm looking forward to hearing and meeting with the Office of Cannabis Management and the Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice, who are not present today for testimony, and specifically to further discuss what we can do in partnership and the expungement of records and charges and the continued process, and more so to see how we can positively move our city forward. And with that, thank you all for coming, and I am adjourning the meeting.